We talk about how the 3 most beautiful words in the English language are "I fucked up," and I think it's a value because it's acknowledgement of a mistake,
humility,
but it immediately disarms whomever you say it to.
Extreme ownership.
Yeah, I fucked up is the greatest thing you can say. Like, and I say it to people. People come to the past. I fucked up. I sent this to the wrong table. What do you need right now?
Yeah.
But it immediately just cuts through all the chase of like,
who's wrong?
Maybe I sent this to the wrong table, but they might have taken it. Fuck that. Like, I fucked up. Let's fix it.
Got it.
And if you can take that philosophy and that ownership of your mistake, somebody else's mistake, anybody's, whatever, I think that pays dividends in the long run for everyone.
Yeah.
Because it having the humility to accept anything that's not right is one of the most important virtues I think you can have in this business.
It doesn't matter who's right, who's wrong. Let's move forward.
Right.
Like, let's get beyond this.
Yeah. I fucked up. What do we need to do about it right now?
What up, Unstoppables? We have a great episode today, but real quick, we want to invite you to make the most important investment of your life. It's not a secret. There's no smoke and mirrors. I'm not even trying to pull a fast one on you. I'm going to be pretty straightforward. The best investment you can make in your life is in yourself. And the best way to invest in yourself is by investing in your network, putting time and energy, surrounding yourself with the best. You are the average of those you surround yourself with. In that Restaurant Unstoppable network, I've made it easy. Over the past 12 years and 1,200 plus episodes, I've been researching and talking to people and trying to figure out how do you become successful in the restaurant industry. And I've curated a network of tools, services, technologies, and individuals, experts that I would go to tomorrow if I'm opening a restaurant. And I'm bringing you to that network with live events, whether it be a workshop, a mentoring session, a power hour, or access to me twice a month where I just listen and steer you in the right direction, all happening at Restaurant Unstoppable Network. Head over to restaurantunstoppable.com/live. You also get this amazing access to all the recordings, RU Network podcast, which includes bonus ad-free and early release content. It also gives you access to our Unstoppable bot. It is a custom AI agent that is fed with 1,200 plus transcripts, over 2,400 hours of transcripts plus bonus content, all cross-referenced with our database. This is a powerful AI tool that you also get access to as well. What are you waiting for? Head over to restaurantunstoppable.com/live and we'll see you there. This episode made possible by Restaurant Systems Pro. With excitement, allow me to introduce to you today's guest, chef owner of Easy Bistro and Bar, Main Street Meats, in his newest concept, Little Coyote, Chef Erik Niel. My man Erik, are you feeling unstoppable today?
I feel unstoppable. Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah.
Stoked to have you here. This isn't your first time on the show. You felt so familiar so far back ago that if I do a Google search, Erik Niel Restaurant Unstoppable, I cannot find it. And when I was researching you today, I was like, this guy feels so familiar. And then when I got here, you're like, I've been on the show. And I was like, I thought this felt familiar. So the second time on the show, the first time you said it was 2015, right?
10 years ago. Yeah.
10 years ago.
Yes.
So you were like episode 200 and something. Yeah. The show has changed so much since then. I'm not even going to have my listeners go back and try to find that first episode because I'm embarrassed at what those sounded like.
We were over the phone. I mean, this is a totally different deal. So this is great.
Yeah. And
congratulations.
Thank you, man. And you've been busy since 2015. You've opened 2 more concepts.
Opened 2 more restaurants.
And you're killing it. And I can't wait to dive in. Before we do, let's get that motivational, inspirational ball rolling with the success quarter mantra. What do you got for us?
The mantra is, and I call this the cheesy Lexus ad, it is the relentless pursuit of perfection.
Relentless pursuit of perfection. What does that mean to you? Dive into that.
It is the ball that you can never catch.
Yeah.
It just keeps getting a little bit further out of your hands, and you keep striving for it, leaping, laying out, jumping, diving, whatever. But if you're not diving for the ground ball and relentlessly pursuing what it is you're after, the perfection that you're after, you're never going to get there. Yeah,
man, 100%. And I think it's that Simon Sinek talks about. Have you heard his latest book? I think it's his latest book. He might have had a new one released. That guy puts out a book every year. Mm-hmm. The Infinite Game. Have you heard of it?
I have not.
The whole idea of that book is really just that don't play this game that is infinite, that there is no end, and there is no better end, infinite game than the game against yourself, just being a little bit better every day, knowing that you'll never be perfect.
We compete with ourselves every day. These restaurants compete with themselves every day to be better versions of who they are. As I speak about restaurants like people, because they are an amalgamation of people.
Yeah.
And if you're not striving every day to improve, be better, pursue the perfection, what purpose do we have?
I love it, man. Great way to get this thing started. Before we kind of go back to 2005 or before that,
Yep.
because you were doing stuff in the industry before 2005, where are you today? Big picture, 3 locations, all full service.
Big picture, I have my wife and I currently run 3 restaurants: Easy Bistro, Main Street Meats, Little Coyote, all at different phases of their lifestyle. We're in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Been cooking professionally here for 25 years, and I feel like I am at a really great kind of mature place in my career where I know what I've done and I kind of know where I'm going, and now I'm working on a different set of thoughts and problems. Is how do I finish this well?
Yeah. So in terms of actual, like, let's start with Easy Bistro. We'll go in chronological order of the concept you've opened. How many seats Easy Bistro?
So Easy Bistro moved in 2020 during the pandemic. So we were in a bigger space that had about 230 seats, and we downsized to about 135, which I think is the perfect size for this restaurant.
Okay.
I absolutely love it.
I love that. So in terms of numbers here, with your 135 seats, what are your prime costs? Where are you at with your labor?
Prime costs are we aim for 65%, and so that's blended COGS and labor.
Okay.
If we hit that, we do. We can make our marks pretty well. Labor is, I would say, 35 to 36% of that. Cost of goods on the other side is usually 30 to 29% of that.
Okay. Okay, cool. And in terms of rent, where are you with your percent rent and all that stuff?
Percentage rent, I have to do some math on that one, but I'd say we're in the 4 to 5% range.
4 to 5. That's good.
Yeah.
That's real good.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we're, the question that everyone wants to know: what's your percent profit?
We can produce between 8 and 12% annually, depending on how the restaurant runs, and I feel great about that. We've certainly done a little bit better than that, and I've definitely done a lot worse than that.
Yeah.
Over the years. But in its
yeah.
mature phase, Easy Bistro can average about 10%.
And that's one of the things, and it's a weird conversation to have, but I think you hear it a lot in the media, like, hey, if you're not doing 20%, like 20% is possible, or even 15% is possible. It is possible. Those numbers are more achievable with huge volume.
Yes.
And or a QSR or fast casual, which is why there's such a trend towards people going in that direction.
Oh, if you're in this business purely for the sake of making money and trying to extract from people and put in your wallet the most, yeah, this is not the ball game you want to be in. Full service is not it.
Right. Yeah. So I'm curious, when you went from 300, or was it 230 to 135? Actually,
Yes.
we're going to talk about that.
Sure.
Like, that's a teaser. I want to know like how that affected your numbers. So that's your first location. Second location,
Main Street Meats.
Yep.
Tiny butcher shop. So we're USDA inspected butcher shop, charcuterie, with a full retail counter that's fed by the butcher shop. Small bar, dining room, and kitchen and patio. So we're about 76 seats there, all in.
76 seats. And again, prime cost?
Prime costs there run up towards 70%.
Okay.
And the reason for that is we blend our cost on the butcher case and the cost of food, because it's very hard to separate the two things into two different businesses.
Okay.
Because they work back and forth with each other on a moment-to-moment basis.
Got it.
So we're shooting for a 40% food cost there,
Okay.
which sounds outrageous. But you just have to take the good, the good with the bad, and take into consideration what we're doing to get that blended cost.
And then if you're at 70, that would give you a 30% labor cost?
30, well, once we add in liquor, wine, beer, that kind of stuff, we can bring our cost of goods a little bit below that 40 mark. So we're usually in the 33, 34% labor cost there.
And is that a profitable concept?
It is a profitable concept. It will never produce that 20% that people say that you can get out of it, because of the cost that it takes to run both a butcher shop and a restaurant and a bar and a kitchen and a dining room in the same 2,600 square feet.
Got it. So where are you with that in terms of profitability?
If we're at 10, we're real happy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So on average, like 8?
8 to 10, yeah.
Got it. And then the last concept is full service.
Yes.
This I love watching like restaurateurs open restaurants over time.
Oh, yeah.
Because you see that there's an evolution happening.
Of course.
Barbecue and tacos.
Every chef wants to have their taco restaurant and their barbecue restaurant at some point, and so I've just been joking that I've just smashed them both together.
And is that your most profitable concept in terms of like volume and like costs and stuff like that?
It's the new baby that we have, so it's
Okay.
about 18 months old, and it's starting to settle itself out.
Okay.
Its costs mirror easy a little bit more than Main Street Meats for sure. You know, we're again looking for a 65% prime cost there, with 32 and 32, 33 in labor, and trying to be in the 30% mark on food and everything else.
All right. So 65% prime cost. Hit me with that split one more time.
30, let's say 33, 34 on the labor, and 31 on the cost of goods total across the board.
Got it.
Make that 65.
Cool. Sweet, man. So are you guys still operating the red in that one, getting it going, or is it in the black yet?
It's getting there. It's in the black, but barely.
Yeah. And I think, they say the number one reason why restaurants fail is because they're undercapitalized.
Yes.
So if you're opening your first restaurant, that 2 years of runway, and you haven't quite hit that 2 year mark yet.
No,
so it takes that. The reality is it takes that time to get the loyalty.
It takes every bit of 2 years to figure out what you're doing and get your cost of goods and your labor in line, while maintaining guest counts, losing them if you make mistakes, getting them back. Cost of guest reacquisition is very high.
Yeah.
And your only real asset there is time. It
Right.
just takes time to get people back in the door. So, they got to hear from somebody else that they had a really good time in the restaurant that they didn't have a great time in.
Right.
And, 1 out of every 3 services when you open a restaurant that you've never run before is going to be kind of rough in the beginning, and there's a lot of loss of customer in that one service that just sucks.
Yeah. And okay, we unpackaged where you are today, numbers and all this.
Sure.
Let's go back to where it starts making sense to share your story. Where does it make sense to start sharing your story? I know we've already had you on the show, but I feel like we're going to take you through from the very beginning.
It starts in the beginning. Growing up in South Louisiana, hunting and fishing and with my dad and my grandfather and my brother, and figuring out how to clean and cook what we caught or killed, and then really in Louisiana it's impossible to grow up without some deep respect and appreciation for food. And in growing up there as a youngster, you don't really take. Or you do take it for granted. You have no idea that everybody else doesn't live like this.
Right.
Like, in the spring, not every neighborhood block is having a crawfish boil at somebody's house every Saturday and Sunday.
Oh my God, awesome.
Somebody's not cooking a cochon de lait down the way, and you just like show up at 5 o'clock and just eat.
Yeah.
With all your friends after you got done playing in the creek and catching crawfish and tadpoles and stuff like that.
That sounds fun.
So and then there's all these actual food items that you're attached to in Louisiana. Zapp's potato chips become like, just like a holy food for us, because you take it for granted when they're gone and they're not there in front of you. Like, when we left Louisiana finally and moved to Virginia when I was in middle school-ish, and not every grocery store had Barks root beer and Zapp's potato chips. It was a real eye-opening experience,
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So you got your family moves in when you're 14 years old.
I was 12.
But you knew at a young age that you wanted to do food because you went to college. You went to Vail.
Well, I went to high school in Dallas, and then I went to college at the University of Texas at Austin.
Okay.
So I
moved around.
I moved around a little bit, and then left Austin and went straight to Johnson & Wales when it was in Vail, Colorado. I was the very last class that graduated.
Okay.
From Vail, when it was all housed at VA and all their different restaurants, throughout the properties that
Did
they
they
had.
have
in Vail.
multiple locations at this time, or was that the only spot?
The mothership was in
Providence?
Charleston at that point, and
okay.
before it moved to Providence.
Okay.
Or no, it was in Providence and then Charleston. Charleston moved to, Charlotte,
Okay,
North Carolina. Yeah,
Got it.
Yeah.
So you were the last graduating year in Vail.
In Vail, yeah.
And so when did you know that you wanted to, was the dream to be a chef or to be a chef owner or a restaurateur? What was the vision, the dream for yourself?
So in school, I kind of knew that I wanted to do something for myself. I wanted to run my own business, and so I was a psychology major, took a lot of motivational and industrial psych kind of classes as I get further in my schooling and my college career, and then minored in business because I figured that couldn't be a bad thing. And Texas got a great business school. And all that did come to bear later in life and really did help.
I was going to say there's a 100% a correlation between people who go to school for psychology and have success in the restaurant industry.
100%.
Not even the business side of things, but the psychology side of things.
It's a lot.
Yeah, man, 100%. So you were in school before going to Johnson & Wales.
I was. So
okay.
and it found cooking as a hobby again in college, because I knew it growing up and I knew how much I loved it, but that was kind of a family thing. Found it in college as a way to kind of get together with my friends once going to the bars. In your junior, senior year, it gets a little bit tiresome. Not fully tiresome, but a little bit tiresome. Cooking at the house and maybe drinking a bottle of wine instead of, a fifth of Jim Beam.
You're so sophisticated.
I know, man. It was great. And really enjoyed it. So I took a couple summer jobs working in restaurants where I could, and this was, washing dishes or working garbage day stations and that kind of stuff. And I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved the action. I loved every bit of it. And it turned on a desire for me creatively and culinarily that I really wanted to pursue. And in the back of my mind, as I'm moving through my senior year of college, I wanted to find something that would lead me into business. And I just thought that cooking and the culinary path could be my muse to get me to where I wanted to go. And in hindsight, looking back, it's exactly what happened.
Yeah. So you said that cooking opened up this desire for you. What was the desire?
To know more, to explore my palate, to explore cooking as a passion, and to be better at it, to find something that it was something that excited me, and I wanted to find a path through it to get into a career and then stay in a career that involved cooking.
Yeah.
Once I really, once I got to culinary school in Vail and I got a job working in the Village, and worked at a great restaurant called Sweet Basil in 1999 through the millennium into 2000. It's a beautiful restaurant, really well run, and that really set the pace for me in wanting to find excellence in the restaurant business.
Yeah, I love that. So you graduate from Vail. Hindsight, I always have to ask this question.
Sure.
Hindsight being 2020, would you have gone to culinary school knowing what you know now?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. For you, why was it worth it?
Well, I was in a unique position that a lot of people aren't. So I have an undergrad degree, which I found very useful in my life. And then I went to a culinary program that only accepted people who had undergrad degrees already.
Okay.
So it was a 19-month-ish program, just culinary, for an associate's degree in culinary arts. But because I'd already graduated with a degree from Texas, I got to skip all the prereq stuff, and that really made it worthwhile for me.
So basically a year and a half, a little more than a year and a half.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. And what was the biggest benefit of that year and a half for you?
Well, if you're just going to go to culinary school and not work at the same time, I feel like you're missing 90% of the battle there. So culinary school is great because it exposes you to concepts and ideas in a classroom environment where you have time to sit and kind of absorb them, and think, critically about them. If you have a great teacher or chef teaching you, something, and you get the idea in class, but then go that evening and work in a kitchen where you're seeing it applied in a real world situation.
A little extra sticky.
It just drills down into your brain.
Yeah.
And it's as simple as, why we make stocks, right? And how you make a stock. And so you listen to a chef talk about at school how he makes his stocks. And then you go to a kitchen and you're talking to a sous chef and she's talking about how she makes her stock. And it's like happening in the exact same moment, but then you see the stock go into a dish, times 7 dishes across the menu, or sauces or whatever, and it all just clicks.
Yep.
But if you're just going to culinary school for the fun of it or anything like that and not working at the same time, I think you're leaving way more than 50% of the knowledge on the table.
Right. Did they cover things like P&Ls and cost of goods and all that stuff in culinary school for you?
No. I got that more from the business school at Texas. And was kind of bad at it in the moment. Because, for most people, money doesn't make any sense theoretically until it's actual money that you control or is maybe yours at the end of the day. So that experience for me really helped me in the beginning of my career.
And you, when did you finish the program in Vail?
Finished in 2000, the fall, summer of 2000. Sorry,
summer of 2000. Yeah. And you were in Chattanooga by 2002. 5 years cooking.
Moved here in the fall of 2000 after I got done with school.
So how'd you find yourself in Chattanooga?
My mom married a guy who lived here. While I was in college.
Got it.
My brother and sister, who are both younger, had moved here to Chattanooga while I was away.
So you got to go all over the country.
Yeah.
You were in Louisiana, Virginia, Texas, and you found yourself in Chattanooga.
Oh yeah. So the quick story is my brother, who is a little bit younger than me, broke his back playing football his junior year of high school. So I was in Vail. Phone calls from the family were very worried about him, and thankfully he was okay. And he ended up healing himself well enough that he could play football.
Wow.
His senior year of high school, which was 2000, fall of 2000. So I came back here specifically to watch him play football that whole fall. I got a job working in a restaurant in the front of the house, actually, and in the interview process, I said, look, I need every Friday night off because I'm here to watch my brother play football. And of course, they look at me. Well, they look at me like I got an arm growing out of my face. And I said, look, I'll work the other 6 days. I get it. I realize it's a weird request, but the only reason I'm in Chattanooga is to do that. And if you don't give me the Friday nights off that football's happening, I'll just go find another job.
Yeah.
So we came to an agreement, and I worked a lot, and they gave me Friday nights off, and I watched him play football every single game.
That's cool.
For his senior year fall semester. My sister was a cheerleader. It was great, man. It kind of reacquainted me with my family after going and doing college and doing culinary school and coming back. And funnily enough, they're all gone. I'm still here. I met my wife at the first restaurant I worked at, where I got every Friday night off. And 25 years later, we've got 3 restaurants in Chattanooga, and that's the story.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think there's an underlying message here and lesson is that you as a restaurateur, no one's going to treat your business the way that you're going to treat it. There's going to be things that are more important than your business.
For sure.
For these people that are coming to work for you, and trying to figure out how to work with these people. I'll give you 6 days. I need this one day off. You need to understand that, you got to find that balance. And if you think that people are going to sacrifice at the same and work as hard for your restaurant as you're willing to work, and to sacrifice things that are in their life for your restaurant, you're delusional. What up, Unstoppables? This episode is made possible by Restaurant Systems Pro. If you are a listener of Restaurant Unstoppable, I know you've heard me mention Restaurant Systems Pro, but just in case you haven't heard of it yet, it is a all-in-one enterprise solution. All the most critical systems that will help you become profitable. I'm talking about costing. I'm talking about inventory management. I'm talking about budgeting. I'm talking about labor management. I'm talking about training. The list goes on, all under one roof, tied to your general ledger, and they have their own POS, and they integrate with nearly every major POS out there. Restaurant Systems Pro is an amazing tool, and this is the thing that gets me really excited. When you join Restaurant Unstoppable Network, you get access to the CEO of Restaurant Systems Pro, Fred Langley, twice a week for a P&L Power Hour. He literally will let you open up your P&L, share it on the screen, and he will help you close the gaps and increase your profitability. You do not have to be a Restaurant Systems Pro user to benefit from these live events. He doesn't care. We're just here to help you. Head over to restaurantunstoppable.com/RSP to get the full playlist of every Restaurant Systems Pro episode, a link to all the testimonials. And if we haven't sold you on Restaurant Systems Pro by then, I don't know what else to do. But if you really want to up your Restaurant Systems Pro experience, be sure to join Restaurant Unstoppable Network too. All right, guys, one more time, head over to restaurantunstoppable.com/RSP.
Times have changed a lot.
Yeah.
I think we have existed in this restaurant business in a very interesting part of the evolution from, really concentrated chef owner concepts to now, where it is increasingly hard for an individual and a dream to raise enough money, find the capital to even open a small restaurant.
Right.
And the way we perceive, our work output, our the either dreaded or important work-life balance comment that people throw in there, you have to pay attention to that. And I think, I want to say that from the point of view of both the restaurant and the employee. There is, the balance is important there, because as long as there's balance and needs are being met both ways, that's great. But it's when needs are only being met on one side of the balance scale that it gets unbalanced.
Right.
And I think a lot of employees and restaurateurs would do good to understand their role in that. It's not just a take. There is a give component of it.
Right.
So,
yeah. And I think for the longest time too, when people were from the late 90s into the late 2000 teens that there is this period, this 30-year period where there was so much glamour and glitz and ego associated with the industry, and people, you could find people that were willing to give you 70, 80 hours a week because that they knew that like their work in your restaurant, if you were successful, would catapult them to the next opportunity.
Oh, for sure.
And they were willing to make those sacrifices. But I think collectively the industry, that world, I mean, I think there was a period where we can kind of like kid ourselves that, like we're the trajectory of those types of restaurants today, these full service restaurants that are chasing beard awards and, stars, and that model is very hard to make work financially.
It's fantastic, and it's fantastically unhealthy.
Right.
And I mean that unhealthy financially, unhealthy, mentally,
all sorts
physically,
of ways.
you name it.
And it's taken 30 years for it to play out to realize people like this, like, what are we doing?
I mean, I worked in kitchens where people threw things at you in the beginning part of my career, and you don't do that anymore.
Right.
That's a good thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Did having things thrown at me make me move? Yes, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So, we've had to learn how to be better motivators, managers, so on and so forth, better than just throwing spoons at people, which is not a good thing. But, sometimes the fiery crucible does, make something out of you. And if you don't submit a little bit to the fiery crucible in your career, especially in a kitchen, it is going to be hard to get out of it, whatever it is that you want.
And to say iron sharpens iron.
Iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So 5 years, from 2000 to 2005, you're working in Chattanooga.
Yes.
For this restaurant. You become the front of house manager.
I became the front of house manager. I worked there for about 8 or 9 months through football season, and then I really wanted to get back in the kitchen. Like
what were you feeling?
I felt I was excited to get to learn that part of the business. In culinary school, you do spend some time in service and front of house learning.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew it was really important to whatever I wanted to do later to have that experience. I just felt like I was losing, a little bit of an edge in cooking on the daily, and I wanted to get it back.
What were the biggest things you learned during this 9-month period in doing the management?
I learned that you can, as a front of house manager, you can either be very active or very inactive. Inactive maybe is the proper word there. And the front of house employees, in my opinion, responded better to activity, being up with them, doing things, clearing tables, bussing, running food, greeting guests, so on and so forth. And the guests responded to that better. And so it really just, reinforced in me that you got to work hard wherever you are to succeed.
Right. Well, if you're spending time doing those things that you just shared, what about the other responsibilities? When do we do that?
It all depends on what kind of position you have. As like a junior front of house manager, if you're writing the schedule, fine. If you have other, end of night responsibilities, invoicing, things like that, those all can get done, but they need to get done when service is not happening. Because in my mind, and this comes from a culinary background as well, like the most important part of the shift is the service.
Right.
Everything is either in service of the service or in getting ready for the next one.
Yeah.
If we're not working service, then what are we doing?
Yeah, think about the amount of like costs you can save on labor if you're one more, set of hands on the floor.
Oh, and how much more money servers can make if you are on the floor and not tipping somebody else out, or and you can get into all the tip out rules and stuff like that. And we have a really cool system we run here, but
I'd love to get into that.
Yeah.
Note.
Sure.
So, okay. So you end up leaving this restaurant, and then you spend the next 2 or 3 years somewhere else.
Yeah. I ended up at a restaurant here called St. John's, which ironically, 2 years ago just moved right across the street from Easy, and their 25th year of operation.
Oh, cool.
Great experience. Worked with some amazing people there. I was there for about 2 years. I left and took a job making ice cream for a local ice cream company called Clumpy's. It was one of the best jobs I've ever had.
Why?
Because I always smelled like ice cream, and
I worked at an ice cream shop.
Yeah,
it was fun showing up at a party.
Yeah.
With like all the ice creams that were mistakes.
Yeah,
like people were like, oh, I didn't order this, or I didn't want nuts. Sweet, that's going in the freezer. I'm taking that to the party. I'm gonna be everyone's best friend.
Perfect.
Showing up with ice cream.
It was great for a couple of reasons. One, I always smelled like ice cream, and my girlfriend, who's now my wife, always liked it when I came home and smelled like ice cream. And I worked out a deal with a guy that owned the shop that I was there specifically to do production of the ice cream. So I asked him if I could do it the way I wanted to do it, not the way it had been being done there by a couple other people. And so I would work, 18, 20 hours straight do all my production for a week because it was very efficient to do it that way. And I would do it, I would come in later in the afternoon, work overnight into the next day. And as people were coming in to work the shift, I'd be leaving. But that way I didn't get interrupted by anybody, so I never messed up my timing.
Clean the machines.
It's in that world. It's how many consecutive runs can you get through an ice cream machine without having to break the machine and clean it?
Right.
So I think I got 22 runs consecutively by putting an order together of production that made sense, where you weren't having to break the machine and clean it every time.
Yeah, I mean units of work, right? Efficiencies.
Oh yeah. And in the meantime, I went home, took a nap, and I would work on a business plan.
That's cool.
Write, and then every now and then go back and make some ice cream.
So when did you say I'm going to open a restaurant in Chattanooga? When did that pop into your head?
I made ice cream for a little while. It was about a year, and then I took another job as a sous at a restaurant here that's no longer here called Bellagio, and I was there for about 18 months. It was a good experience. Had a great crew. Had a really intense and great chef and owner who. Ultimately was the last fist up fight I ever got in was with him on the night that he fired me and I quit simultaneously.
What was the fight over?
He was in having dinner, and one of my guys had burnt the garlic in a pasta, and he hadn't been in like 2 weeks, and we were working real hard. We were kind of short-staffed, of course, and he threw his plates down on the pass and said, you burnt your fucking garlic. And I looked at him and was like, enough, get the fuck out of here. I don't need your help right now. Yeah. This is not it. And so we just
worry in the weeds that you're not helping.
Oh, and I mean, the kitchen is going down in flames. And so
the worst thing you can do when you're already struggling is to throw a big wrench of anger and the negative energy into that. You're already stressed out. Whatever little bit of attention you had is totally out the window.
Totally gone. And
you're sunk.
Oh, full rail. The night just went completely off the hinges from there, because it's the only time I've ever just grabbed up all my shit and walked out, said bye to my guys, and that was it. And so I went to the house and sat there for a little bit and pulled out the business plan. Was like, I'm gonna do this. I don't want to have another job unless it's a job where I'm working for myself.
Yeah.
And it took me, I think, 17 months from that moment to get the restaurant open.
So almost a year and a half.
Yep.
And you were working on this business plan back when you were at the ice cream place.
Yeah, it was a 3-ish year project, from writing business plan, having another job, quitting that job, and then, working just specifically on opening a business for 17 months while not making any money at all.
Yeah.
And getting it done.
So during this 3-year period, what was the biggest challenge for you?
To stay on task, to find the energy and the enthusiasm to consistently go push that rock up the hill 1 inch at a time every single day, and not knowing how big the rock actually was and not knowing how tall the hill actually was probably the hardest part of it, because you're pushing into the unknown.
Or the ignorance is the bliss part of it. Because if you did know, would you keep on pushing?
I'm very stubborn, and my wife would confirm that multiple times over. No is a motivating word to me. So if somebody tells me I can't do something, my initial reaction is to not necessarily say anything, but just go do something to prove that I can.
So how did you stay motivated?
Well, I need something to do. I mean, I couldn't just sit there and, watch TV in my underwear for 17 months and not earn any money. So I figured if I was going to spend my savings that I had at that point and, spend the goodwill of my family who was feeding me on a daily basis.
How much savings did you have?
I bet probably $25,000.
$25,000. How much did you think it was going to have to, what was it going to cost to get open?
I had no idea, man.
Yeah. How much did it end up costing?
To open the first Easy in 2005, I think our total all in was $650,000.
$650,000?
Yeah.
So where'd you go to get the money?
Friends, family, and fools.
Yeah. So $25,000 of that was you just living for 3 years off of that, essentially.
Well, for the 17 months, I was working for part of that time.
Got it.
Yeah.
So did you put that $25,000 into the cost of opening?
Yeah, I did.
So you had to come up with
and
$6,250 or $625,000. Sorry.
Yes, $625,000, and it was small investments from family and friends, and then I managed to secure an SBA loan with my parents' help.
I was gonna say usually you have to be in business to get the loan for a while or something like that.
Exactly.
Or what are the terms? You need to have like a 630 credit score or higher. And
it the SBA is an interesting thing, and it is very useful. But any bank the basic rule is they'll only lend you money if you have money. So collateralizing a new restaurant in any way whatsoever was not an easy task.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, 3 years, just the motivation to keep going, you said, gathering the money. I mean, this was also 25 years ago, right?
2004, 2003 or 4, yeah.
Yeah. I think, has it changed, do you think, from that time when you went to go do this to now?
I think the process is exactly the same. Well, I shouldn't say exactly. There's a couple differences. The problem is that the amount of money is just so much greater.
Right.
It's 3x that.
Right.
I told somebody the other day that was trying to, because people will, offer me restaurant spaces, and I'm very grateful that they come and talk to me and, want some feedback on it. And, my basic math is it's $500 a foot to build out a restaurant. So, 2,000 square foot restaurant's going to be $1 million. 2,000 square foot restaurant's not that big.
Right.
4,000 square foot restaurant, and this is in Chattanooga, like bare minimum, like just the bones of a restaurant, no fancy stuff. $2 million for a 4,000 square foot restaurant.
Yeah. And that's the cost of goods and labor, basically, right?
Yep. Yeah. To get everything and spend all the money it takes to legally set up the corporation, find tax accountants and blah, have maybe a publicist if you have the money to do it, a branding company to help build a brand for you, a web designer. Like, it's just the list goes on and on and on.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, in today's, not only is it 3 times more expensive, but it's 3 times more competitive of a market.
It is. One of the big differeces, and this is what I was alluding to earlier, is there are a lot of spaces in the market that are driven by real estate development, where somebody, be it a big corporation or an individual, decides that they want to build a building, they're going to have apartments or a hotel on the top floor, and then they get ground floor retail. And they need a restaurant to come into that space as kind of an amenity to the space. And this is the difference in the restaurant startup game right now, is that there are these spaces that need tenants, but I don't think developers and investors have quite figured out how to make people go into those spaces, because the cost of entry is still high there.
Right. And,
even if they're offering $100 a foot in TI, on 500 minimum in build out, that's still not, it still doesn't get you there,
Right. Well, I think you bring in the term of developers or people who are owning properties. I think we forget that retail used to be this thing.
Yeah.
Where like you would go walk down the street and there would be shops with people selling things.
Yeah.
Like
it used to be a thing.
You could go get shoes or a shirt or, like an appliance.
Get your hair cut,
like
buy a toaster,
Yeah, it's crazy. Like you could do this on the streets.
Oh yeah.
Before Amazon, like it's crazy.
And there are precious few places where you can do it now. When you do find one of those little enclaves, it is magical.
Yeah.
And it feels great.
But it was right around 2005, 2003 where all these places started shuttering their doors. So by 2007, it was like retail was dead.
Yeah.
And now you have all these existing retail spaces on top of the ones that are being built that people are like, what am I going to do with this space? Well, people still need to eat. And anybody that worked for any James Beard or Michelin star chef was getting their own restaurant because developers were like, oh, like I'll leverage your brand or that person that you work for's brand to give you the money to open a restaurant.
Sure. Those days are kind of behind us now because there's more demand for restaurants and less people to operate them than there ever has been, in my opinion.
It's a weird time for sure. So, but what in terms, like we've clearly identified that in the 25 years that you've done this to today, like the world we're in has changed.
Sure.
But what are the constants that haven't changed in terms of the struggles you had and the advice you have for somebody who's going through that right now?
Well, I think, the greatest constant, and I always try and take it back to the guest, is guests always want to be taken care of. They always want to be entertained. They always want to be felt, made to feel welcome and be shown hospitality, and in turn show it back to their servers and so on and so forth. So if you stay true to that, through all the mess, I think you can always have a really good business, but you got to be guest focused.
Yeah.
The challenges are always going to be there. Stuff is always going to cost more than it did the day before. There's always going to be, economic ups and downs, although there is a large group of people working in the restaurant business right now that have never actually seen a recession. If you're under 40 years old and working in the restaurant business, you've never worked through a recession. And I think that's a really interesting thing and a very interesting time to have been in this business, because, trying to take care of people through a down economy is what kind of made me, working through '08 and
Yeah, 3 years in, right?
Yeah, helping a restaurant to survive through a not just a recession, a crash.
Right.
It made us, and it made that focus on each individual guest just like laser focused.
Yeah. So that first year, 2005, like how long did it take you to pay back your investors?
Oh, it took me years, man.
Yeah.
Just because I made all the mistakes that a dumb 26-year-old guy open a restaurant could,
What were those biggest mistakes you made? When?
Biggest mistakes were ultimately structural, and that the space I was in was bigger than I needed it to be.
Okay, 300 seats?
230.
Yeah.
For the amount of revenue we were capable of doing out of the space. And that ultimately was one of the big factors in moving it 15 years later to a smaller space where we have less seats but are doing more revenue and making more money because we have less overhead because of the smaller space.
Yeah, I was really interested in that. I made notes on that. So you were there from 2005 to 2020. So 15 years you were operating in the space that was a little bit too big.
Great space, and then in that 15 years, Chattanooga changed a lot. Different areas of town sort of awoken, became popular, and other restaurants opened, and people were kind of, pulled away from where we were, which is sort of the downtown center where the aquarium was, and it was kind of
where are we relative to your old location?
We're about 8-9 blocks away from our old location.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this isn't downtown?
No, this is downtown, but I mean, by that I mean by the riverfront. We were by the riverfront, which was kind of a more touristy destination.
Yeah, my only time ever in Chattanooga was the 5 minutes that it took me to get off the highway into park my car.
Nice.
In front of,
it's a great place, man.
I can't wait to get out and walk around a little bit.
It's a great place.
But so again, the other thing that happened since you opened your place today is that the downtowns where everybody wanted to be are no longer the places to be.
Well, Chattanooga has a really interesting downtown revitalization story.
Okay.
In that, in the 90s, nobody was here. And there were some, really civic-minded benefactors and developers that came in and did a lot of really good work to bring people back into downtown. And as that work spread, in a city of, 150 to 200,000 people, which is what Chattanooga is, our MSA is maybe 500,000, there's only so many places that 200,000 people can go to eat. And so once, in our old location, we were not changing fast enough to keep up with what was there, and that was our fault. Part of that was my unwillingness to change what we were doing because I really believed in the cuisine and the presentation that we were doing it, and was acknowledged in that in a couple of ways, specifically by the Beard Foundation, which was really nice. However, it wasn't exactly what needed to happen in that location.
Got it.
Yeah.
So two things that we've identified so far as big struggles from opening to today. One was the space was too big. Two, not changing fast enough.
Oh, sure.
So let's unpack the space real quick. So the numbers associated with this. So 230 seats. Was it the kitchen not big enough? Was there not
too big?
Too big. The kitchen was too big.
Yeah. So, and this is too big for the amount of business we were doing. You can put a concept in that big a space and do really well. It just didn't need to be chef driven, seasonal, kind of what I would say avant-garde food for the time that was pushing boundaries. And there was our big mistake, was being in a too big a space while doing having a concept that was a little too pushy and boundary pushing to satisfy the amount of people that needed to be there. So
was it a combination of the logistics associated with doing the food you were trying to do at scale, or was it more that the market there wasn't enough people in the market to fill that space that wanted your food?
Well, you go back to that recession thing. When you're only doing 20-30 covers a night in a 230 square foot or 230 seat space, and you got a giant kitchen, it only requires so many people. The problem that we ultimately had was we couldn't scale down our staff because we hadn't have enough people there in case we got busy, because we didn't want to get egg on our face.
Right.
And it was a big open space where you couldn't really divide anything up and turn off different parts of the dining room or the kitchen. So we ended up with this big crew running, low numbers for a long time. And it just, it just made the numbers suck at the end of the day.
Yeah. When did the numbers get to the point where you started thinking this makes sense?
When you get revenue up to a certain point, that your food costs and your labor costs can sort of like even out into those prime cost goals that you're looking for.
When did that happen for you guys?
It happened at different times at the old location, when we did find some real like momentum with our guests, and it really happened once we moved to the new location where we have 2020, when we have a smaller space that's sectionable, so we on slower days can turn off parts of the restaurant, not seat them, and deactivate a couple of positions in the kitchen so that we can just service the guests that we have on the books or in the dining room.
Got it.
Yeah.
So you said not changing soon enough. When did you change? And what do you mean by that?
Constantly evolving, but I think what I meant by that was not my unwillingness to give up on the chef-driven, sort of boundary-pushing food that we were doing.
Why was change required?
There's a formula you can follow in the restaurant business to catch a wide audience. If you've got a burger and pizza and chicken fingers, you're going to do a lot more business than, house-made pastas and, long braised meats and, small plates of super fresh vegetables from local Amish farmers,
Labor costs, prime costs.
Labor costs, labor costs, prime costs, freezer to table restaurants work really well.
Yeah.
I was just not willing to do that.
Yeah. It's weird. I think I recently in an email said I think scratch kitchens are overrated. I think that there's something to be said about like the talent and the skill that goes into a scratch kitchen. But at the same time, for example, I just had Dean and Peeler on the show, similar to Newman Ranches, where they have super consistent, high quality. It's a farm that just has tons of high standards, but they also vertically integrated everything from like selecting the semen to feeding, birthing, feeding, and butchering or harvesting, and then they also have a productions facility.
Oh yeah.
So like they can to the specs cut the meat you want it cut. They can work with you to fit the take your marinade, your seasoning, put it in a package and send it to you. I mean, it's your creativity, but you're gonna have to pay somebody to do that.
The food is gonna take so much money to prep, no matter who's doing it.
Right.
You're either paying somebody else to do it, or you're paying yourself to do it.
If you can support a local business that instead of taking all that talent in house and help support your community, why not do that? Like.
Because it's hard, because you got to manage people on a daily basis.
Which people? The people that you're outsourcing from?
Or? Oh, I'm talking about in the kitchen, a scratch kitchen.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like if you can find a solution in your local economy to outsource, maybe there's a pasta company. All they do is they make homemade pasta.
Sure.
Why not?
Fully agree with that.
Yeah.
I just Chattanooga is just a little bit small to have what you need there. I mean, we have a couple great bakeries here, and without those couple great bakeries, this culinary scene would not exist.
Yeah, your costs.
We're one bakery closing away from just utter catastrophe. Because you can't have a food scene in a city without a bakery. It doesn't work.
Well, it's interesting. I think what happened if you look at like the history of like the evolution of food when we got to like industrializing the food system. I'm not. I would love to go deeper into the subject and learn more about it, but it seems like there was this period where people, would become specialists, and then those specialists would scale.
Sure.
And then they would scale, and they'd put everybody else out of business.
Yes.
And I think if we were kind of to find a balance, back to that idea of balance of like, how do we find these specialists, but like keep it local specialists, maintain the quality, have the pasta maker, the bread maker, the pastry person, and like go back to this idea of actually having a community of specialists in wholesale.
It's interesting, and I have been in that role somewhat with Main Street Meats.
Right, I was just thinking that.
Because, I've been involved with Main Street Meats for about 12 years. We've had it, under ownership for almost 10 years. And it is I've used this line many times, but like there's a reason that all the old Southern butchers went out of business. It's because the business model sucks. There is no money in breaking whole animals and trying to sell pieces out of a case.
Teaser, leave it there, because that opened in 2015, right?
Right.
So we're still, we've got some time.
Sure.
Anything that happened between, you've identified the pain points of the space was too big. You didn't change your approach. You're married to the chef-driven concept.
Sure.
Anything else between 2000 like this time in 2015 that's worth bringing to the surface?
Well, in that unwillingness to change, and I'm not saying that this is a good thing, but it is a benefit of it, is in that time I was establishing and reinforcing my reputation as a chef and a restaurateur in this community.
Yeah.
Because the food we were producing was great, and it was recognized as being great. It just wasn't being utilized enough from a restaurant point of view to make it, profitable at the end of the day.
What do you mean utilized enough?
We weren't being frequented enough. Like,
Okay.
we weren't, we weren't busy enough. We weren't doing enough volume.
So what do you, was it just like a disconnect with the marketplace?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Chattanooga is a small southern town, and we were doing, food that did not play specifically to that small southern town at that time.
Yeah.
We were doing the food we wanted to do, and buying purple hulls, and making great dishes with local produce that were very reminiscent of Appalachian standards, but it was just a little bit too far ahead of its time to be really maybe appreciated in the way I hoped it would be.
What about the demographic in terms of average income in this area? At that time,
there's plenty of traffic from visitors from out of town, but it was traffic and kids and families that didn't really want to play with the food we were doing.
Right.
The pizza shop next door did great.
Yeah.
And they should have. It was a great pizza store. And then locals. There's a wide range of incomes from median all the way to extremely high, and we were frequented as much as people could frequent us based on their income.
Yeah.
But we became a special occasion only kind of place.
Got it.
And that kind of sucked.
Yeah. So it's still obviously still in business. We're sitting here today. So
Sure.
eventually, so before 2015, did you guys start to figure it out?
Yeah. We started to dial in the menu better, and most importantly, people started moving here post 2008 recession. They would bring their out of town desires and sensibilities about what they wanted out of a dining experience with them, and the dining scene would slowly evolve, and we kind of caught up, or we kind of caught up with them. They kind of caught up with us, and it started to really make more sense.
Got it. And I think the other thing that happened right after during the recession, 2007, the iPhone was developed.
Oh yeah.
Social media, like people are starting to take pictures of food. By 2012, 13, you don't have to be from New York or Los Angeles or Miami or Chicago to see what people are eating all over the country.
Oh, yeah.
And now people from small towns who never go to those big cities still want that food because they know it exists.
They get an idea of what it can
FOMO.
be. And then, there was a moment, and each one of these restaurants has kind of had that moment. Little Coyote, not so much because it's new, but it's starting to have it where the community starts to embrace what it is you're doing, and be prideful in it.
Yeah.
And there was a moment, around that 15, 16 time frame that the community in Chattanooga really started to embrace easy and what I was doing with food and what we were doing with hospitality and beverage and that kind of stuff, and care about it like it was their own.
Nice.
And when you can achieve that in a restaurant, I don't know if there's any formula to it other than just working as hard as you possibly can and being really lucky.
Yeah.
When you can achieve that, it's awesome.
So in 2015, well, by that point, before opening your second business, what was how were you evolving? If the show is about evolution and transformation, how are you in your business evolved and transformed by this point?
Well, by 15, we've been in it for 10 years. We've done some pretty significant updates to the interior of the restaurant. We were evolving, in losing lunch shifts because they were a drain, keeping Saturday brunch and Sunday brunch at that time, and then driving the menu towards what we thought people wanted out of us to be, while still still maintaining culinarily and growing culinarily in a way that was exciting for us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was there a peak at the old location, a period?
I think this thing has just always continually gotten better at being, a good restaurant for the customers.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's ever peaked, and I don't know that it ever will, but it goes back to that relentless pursuit of perfection. I'm incredibly happy with this version of it right now, but I know this version of it is going to evolve over time.
Yeah. What about you? We talked about how the business evolved.
Sure.
You're evolving to meet the guest you're kind of tailoring the customer, what the customer wanted. But were you growing as a restaurateur?
Oh yeah. And all of this, and going back to my experience in the front of house, where I met my wife, I think one of the greatest strengths we always had was my ability to bridge the gap between back house, front of house. And so, lots of places have pre-shifts, but we dedicated an inordinate amount of time to pre-shifts at Easy and now Main Street and Little Coyote. We spend 45 minutes sitting down at a table just about every day at all these restaurants, talking about what we do for a living, talking about food, talking about bar, talking about guests, talking about whatever, and imparting knowledge back to front to back, so that everybody knows exactly what we're expecting.
Okay.
And in that way you develop a vernacular. You learn, you have knowledge being passed. We're tasting wine, we're tasting spirit, we're tasting cocktails, we're tasting food, whole 9 yards.
When did you start doing this?
We did it from the beginning.
From the beginning,
yeah.
So you were growing, but how was this? Maybe I missed it. What was the difference? What was the evolution?
The evolution was just getting better at doing that,
Okay.
and instead of being quite so anxious about it, like you are in the beginning when everything's so tense, finding a little bit of relaxation as you find a little bit of success, and you find a little bit of revenue, and you find a little bit of volume, and when your worst night is 20 covers becomes 40 covers becomes 60 covers becomes 80 covers. You're breathing a little bit, and that's great.
So what does your 45-minute pre-meal look like today?
We do family meal, about 30, 45 minutes before every shift, so everybody can sit down and eat. The kitchens do a great job of putting out what I would say is a delicious family meal that involves not just one thing. It's not always chicken and rice, but sometimes it's chicken and rice because chicken and rice is delicious.
Yeah, I'm not complaining if I don't eat chicken and rice every day.
Exactly. And then we'll sit down and run through menu changes, any special notes from the kitchen, bar changes, any special notes from the bar, and then we just kind of have an open forum. Sometimes we'll have a wine professional join us. Sometimes I'll lead a wine tasting. Sometimes our wine director will lead a wine tasting. Sometimes our beverage director will lead a cocktail tasting or a spirit tasting, and then we talk about it and really work on establishing a vernacular with people so that they can smell something and express what they're smelling, give them vocabulary, and then talk about where that goes in a guest meal, why it exists, what purpose it serves in our environment, so on and so forth.
Got it. Yeah. Do you guys only talk about the food, or is there other things that come to the conversation?
Oh man, we'll talk. I'll ask if anybody's got any good jokes, if anybody's done anything fun lately. Yeah. Have you had anything happen to you in a restaurant lately that you liked or disliked?
Yeah.
And when it's never about throwing shade, it's all about learning from it. So if you went somewhere, if you just took a trip to Chicago and had a great meal, tell us about your meal. Why was it great? What did you learn from that experience?
What about numbers? Did the numbers ever come to the conversation? Sales?
No. I don't really like to treat sales as the important marker for these restaurants. I like to treat covers as the important marker. So it's not about how much we did in sales. It's about how many covers we have on the books, or how many covers we're expecting to do, what the spread of the covers is, what we can expect in these moments. If it's going to get really busy, we may need to communicate and hold this 10 top for 20 more minutes before we fire it, that kind of stuff.
Got it. I mean, what you're talking about right now is we talk about this a lot within Restaurant Unstoppable Network. When I'm talking to people, they ask about how to build a culture. I'm like, culture isn't what you write down. Everyone's so focused on what am I going to write on the paper? What am I going to say my mission is? What am I going to say my values are?
I'm almost shocked we got to this point of the conversation without using the word culture.
Yeah.
And I think it's just because I take it for granted.
What do you mean?
Because we've worked so hard to build this culture.
What is your culture today?
Oh, man, it is hospitality. It's knowledge. It's open and honest communication.
Are these core values that you're listing right now?
Yeah, sure. And it's I think it is the values that these restaurants possess, with or without me standing there. And I mean that by saying Easy specifically will be 20 years old next month, which is pretty shocking.
Wow.
But this restaurant, if I'm not here for a day or two or three or a week or a month, this restaurant still has those values because they've been imbued in everybody who's in it over generations of people, to this point where they're just expected.
Yeah.
The front of house expects it, the back house expects it, our guests expect it, so on and so forth.
So you started saying what is your culture? You said it's hospitality, it's open communication. I think you said that.
Yeah, open communication.
What else did you say?
Knowledge, experience, friendliness. All that. I think hospitality just kind of encompasses all of that. It's a beautiful word.
Right. Yeah. But where I was going with that train of thought is it's not what you put on the paper. It's what's happening every day.
Sure.
So don't focus on trying to communicate like oh, like what is, like it's like no, like really reflect, like what do we do, what are the things that are most important to me, and it's the living of those things every day. That's what's happening every day. That is your culture.
Sure.
And every culture across the world has rituals. They have language, like you're talking about vernacular.
Sure.
And like the things that you say, that like, you know, sometimes you go into a restaurant and there'll be like these like little rituals and language around just like communicating like a plate. They'll have like a nickname for a plate, like one whatever. You know, like that's culture.
100%.
You know?
It's the little unspoken things that are in between every other word. You know.
But taking these rituals, the pre-meal or the pre-shift, the everybody calls it different things.
Sure.
Like the pre-shift meeting. That is a ritual.
Oh, the sitting down for 45 minutes with the same people every day is pretty phenomenal, man. I mean, you know, I don't get to spend that time with with my kid every day.
Yeah,
but I love getting to do it when I can with everybody that works here.
And this is where you can surface your values: hospitality, service, friendliness, knowledge.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like learning is a core value.
Oh yeah, and there's been some tough days. You know, when something happens in the world that is bothering anybody who works for us. We'll talk about it. You know, be it disasters, political goings on, money, this, that, and the other. You know, if something happens and they want to talk about it, we'll talk about it. I think it's important to kind of let people have a moment to breathe in that environment and know that they're going to be safe in saying whatever it is that they want to say.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so 2015. Sure. What's going on in your world?
Well, just got in. 2015. We were renovating Main Street Meats into its current configuration. So we took what was an existing butcher shop and then a small butcher counter with a little bitty kitchen in the back and a couple of stools, and turned it into, at that time, a 40-seat restaurant with a bar. Made the butcher shop a tiny bit smaller and made the kitchen a little bit more robust so that we could service lunch and dinner on a daily basis.
So the butcher shop was more of a butcher shop before you took over.
It was. Or
did you create it?
I did not. It was an existing business that my partner in it still had started. Okay. And he had asked me to come be involved in it in a consulting role. Okay. And I fell in love with it. I mean, it was challenging. I've always been specialized in kind of fish butchery is my thing, and so whole animal butchery was not a skill that I possessed. I'm not going to say it's a skill that I possess to this day because I've always had really great butchers that have worked there, but I understand the process and know what they're doing, so we can talk about it again, that vernacular. Yeah. And it was just a really unique opportunity to get involved in a business that I thought, kind of like that one bakery, to have that one butcher shop in town would be really, really cool.
Right. Cool, but like you mentioned, not the best business model.
No, I mean, the economics of buying a whole animal, cutting a whole animal, and selling it suck. Yeah. And there's a reason that big corporations have gotten involved, because unless you're, buying at scale, butchering at scale, selling at scale, the meat business is all about pennies on the dollars. So if you're only selling 500 pounds of meat, and you're making a penny on every pound, that's only $5. That doesn't do you really good, right? You got to be selling just massive amounts to make money in that world, and on top of the fact that we were trying to source from local growers on both pork and beef, and the pitfalls that happen in that world, because while a pig may be absolutely beautiful, but if it's an old heritage breed pig that, the 500-pound carcass that you paid $5 a pound for yields 250 pounds of lard, that's very expensive lard. Yeah. It's great lard, but man, that's very expensive lard.
Well, I mean, the cool thing that's happening right now, mostly like beef tallow, right?
Oh, yeah, beef tallow.
This episode is made possible by Restaurant Systems Pro. And at Restaurant Unstoppable, we are huge fans of Restaurant Systems Pro. So much that we are partnering with Restaurant Systems Pro, and they are going live every other week, twice a month. They are going live in Restaurant Unstoppable Network. Fred Langley, the CEO of Restaurant Systems Pro, we will have access to him, and he will go through your P&L. You do not have to be a Restaurant Systems Pro client to take advantage of this. He will literally tear apart your P&L, and he will help you find the gaps so you can increase your profit by 5% or more. He is literally saving people's restaurants in Restaurant Unstoppable Network. If you want to take advantage of not just Restaurant Systems Pro, their budgeting, their costing, their inventory, their labor management, their training, their general ledger, all tied to your POS, this amount of data is insanely ridiculous. Beyond that, he's making himself available to coach you. This is all happening at restaurantunstoppable.com/live. We'll see you there.
I think we're starting to realize we fucked up the food system so bad that we're starting to now, like, our choices of how we ate for 50 years is starting to like manifest in our health, right? Like
It could be the understatement of the year. I mean, we've fucked it up so badly.
Yeah, but I think it took 50 years for it to like manifest in like the children that like the children of the children,
I mean, shockingly, super engineered foods and all the stuff that we do to make food more prolific and not
more affordable
and disease resistant, more profitable, has stripped all the nutrients out of it, and we're all eating all this shit that just makes us sick.
Right. But I'm hopeful. I think that as we're learning more about science, like, Moore's law, that technology improves at an exponential rate. Information is also increasing at an exponential rate. We're learning more and more about the human body and the food systems, and this information isn't locked behind closed doors anymore.
No, but the raw kind of reality of it is that really good food at this point costs a lot of money. The food that's really good for you.
But does it cost? So this is interesting. There's a book out there called The Town That Food Saved, and it profiles this town in Vermont. And they make a point, I think it was like in the 1920s or 30s or something like that, before we industrialized the food system, like maybe 1940s, right after World War II. The average household spent about 20% of their income on food. And then most recently, at the peak of the industrial age, it was like 9%.
Oh, yeah.
So is food getting more expensive, or is it going back to the cost associated with real food?
Great point. I mean, I'd say the answer is yes, food is getting more expensive, and we're not paying enough for it. It's, what is your priority, right?
Our money's going somewhere, but it's just not towards food.
Exactly. And that's, one of the casualties of development and growth has probably been quality of food.
Maybe a casualty of consumerism.
Sure.
Don't get me started.
No. I mean, we can go on that for days.
Yeah.
But, like the whole beef tallow thing that's very in vogue of late, right? There's not enough cows on the planet to create enough beef tallow, and this is just me doing math in my head, to run all the fryers in the U.S. for one day.
Yeah, to support all the chicken finger and hot chicken concepts.
There's no chance.
Yeah, I know.
We are not going back to a beef tallow fried environment. Like, it's not going to happen. We can have beef tallow in our fryers, but 100% beef tallow does not last in a fryer for very long.
I guess, I think the point I was trying to make is that we're starting to realize that there really is no need for any byproduct, and that there's use for everything that the animal has if we're willing to have different values.
Yeah, of course.
Like, there's no reason why I should be throwing away 200 pounds of lard. Like, there's got to be a use for that some way, somehow.
Oh yeah.
Like,
we were never throwing away the lard.
I'm just saying
we just lost money on it.
We weren't making money on it. Right?
We were definitely not making money on it. It was delicious, and man, those pies tasted great. But oh my god,
like, why
there's no way to make any money on it.
Ingenuity go towards figuring out that problem. You know what I'm saying? Like, what can you do with that? Like, how can you use it in industrial? I don't know.
I think, it's
a very complicated
It's
problem.
such a loaded question, and I would love to be a part of the solution there.
Right.
But until everybody sees that as an issue, it's going to be hard to battle that.
Yeah, and I know it's not as simple as I make it out. I mean, I can be very naive about this, because I know it's a very complicated issue.
Sure.
But to your point, until people start caring about it.
Yeah.
And I think that is starting to happen.
You see it more. I mean, food as medicine is one of those things that you see talked about more and more.
Yep.
And as a chef and restaurateur and somebody that does care about the quality of food we're serving to people, I think it's awesome.
It's not just medicine for the body; it's medicine for the soul, the mental health. Like, people, like food. The food system gives people so much purpose. I feel like I'm going, people who listen to the show know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
Like, it's this idea that, like, we literally evolved around our relationship with food.
Oh yeah.
We are what we are today because of our ability to cook and to find, hunt, and gather. Then eventually agriculture, like in civilization, was born out of agriculture. Like literally our entire evolution as a species centers around food. And if you think the future is going to be any different from the past, like you're delusional.
But to your point earlier, that's why do we call it a commodity?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know,
it is a necessity.
Yeah. And I think that was off recording. I think I mentioned that.
That's true.
We call food, it's literally listed as a commodity.
Right.
And it was the majority of the things we put in our body was life, was living.
Yep.
Was life. And we list it next to coal. And even coal was once life at one point, technically, right?
Exactly.
Anyway, I digress. Back to your butchery.
Cool.
So your butchery, your butcher shop, the meat house. Wait.
Main Street Meats.
Main Street Meats. Thank you very much. 2015, you entered this operation as a consultant. Mm-hmm. Until how much time elapsed? So they developed it. You came in. They were struggling. What was that relationship like?
It was a great relationship because the people I was working with are great people, and they wanted it to succeed.
Your partners,
yeah.
So are they partners to this day?
Yeah, one person, just one.
How many
one
people
partner.
were involved?
There were two people involved. One of them left. Maybe 8 years ago.
Did you replace that partnership?
No, it's just me and my original partner.
Got it.
But everybody wanted it to succeed,
yeah.
And it needed a lot of attention and a lot of money to get to where it needed to get.
Okay.
And what we when I got there, it was the idealistic one cow at a time, one pig at a time. That's what we got in the case, and sales were suffering because we couldn't.
Everybody wants brisket. There's only 2 briskets in a cow.
Everybody wants tenderloins. I mean, there's only maybe, if you're lucky, 5 pounds of tenderloin
right.
in one cow, and that doesn't pay for the cow.
Right.
So the middle meats were gone, and we were left holding the bag with a whole bunch of ground beef. So what I did over time was move to a supplier of whole animal that is fantastic, because we were messing with a bunch of different small growers.
Newman Ranch.
So our primary box beef provider is Nyman Ranch.
Okay.
And then our whole animal provider is a farm close to here called Bear Creek Farms.
Got it.
And they are fantastic. One of the best, most vertically integrated small producers of high quality beef, pork, and lamb in the world, in my opinion.
Yeah, I really do think that this is the solution. Part of the solution, not wholly, but understanding vertical integration and putting it at the food production, but like taking these massive vertically integrated organizations like the Tysons of the world and shrinking that at a local, helping absorb some of that cost at a local level.
Then you need to talk to Leanne from Bear Creek at some point.
I literally just had are they beef?
Beef, pork, and lamb.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd love to, like I want to start talking to more farms, because I think that we need to start educating the restaurateur on the options at the farm level.
Sure.
I had Dean and Peeler on the show. Plus the B-roll of the cows it always does really good on social media.
Yep.
So if that helps,
No, totally. But not, and the bigger version of that is Nyman that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And the quality, they're the only place where there's not a local or regional producer that produces box beef that meets our quality and rigid kind of environmental and agricultural standards outside of Nyman Ranch.
What are your standards?
Hormone, antibiotic free, and we want them to have free choice grass and grain. So they're not just feedlot cows, if that makes sense. And to me, that makes the most difference in flavor at the end of the day. When a cow has choice to eat grass while they're being finished on grain, it maintains the grass-fed profile of them. Grass-fed beef, which I know is a huge thing for a lot of people, on the whole, is very hard to sell in a restaurant and butcher shop environment. It's not because it doesn't look good, and it's not because it doesn't taste good, but the problem is if it doesn't have any fat in it, usually, very rarely do you find a full grass-fed animal that has developed fat pathways throughout the musculature of it, or intermuscular fat pathways.
Does it look as appealing?
It looks great. The problem is if you take it home and cook it anywhere past medium rare, it's going to taste like beef liver. And so what we ran into for a long time is that everybody thought our beef sucked coming from the restaurant in the case, because they would take it home,
not know how to cook it.
Not know how to cook it. It would carry up to, because there's no fat in it. It would carry real fast, and next thing you know, you got a Midwell well done steak that you paid a bunch of money for. It didn't taste that great.
Yeah.
So it was a negative reinforcing cycle. We're selling great stuff for a higher cost, but then when you eat it at home, because we're not in control of cooking it, it wasn't proving to be what people wanted.
Got it.
And, I understand the diehard people who just want grass-fed beef. The problem is
It's more about the nutritional value than it is about does it taste amazing.
exactly. And at that point, we make something over at the shop called Primal Grind, where we take 20% organ meat and grind it with our normal ground beef.
Oh, cool.
And if you just want the iron and the calcium and the richness of that, just eat Primal Grind.
I mean,
It's
that's
great.
what's happening right now is people are eating for the nutritional value.
Yeah.
I'm one of those people.
Yeah.
I 100%. I can't believe I'm saying this. I look at food as medicine more today than ever before. Yeah. I was also recently diagnosed as pre-diabetic. I also have a fatty liver, and it's like shit. Like, like I have to like.
I mean, garbage in, garbage out, right? If you feed yourself badly, you're gonna end up, down the road at some point, it's gonna take a toll.
You try to have a restaurant business podcast for 10 years.
I
and
know,
travel
man.
all over the country. It's very tempting. So, like I have to eat clean now. And I think, and before and now we're also learning how like screwed up our healthcare system is with the just like we're not curing people, we're just giving them medicine to like, and it's all about just trying to drum up this huge pharmaceutical industry, and like once I don't want to go on medication out of strictly because I just don't want my money to go towards pharmaceutical companies. I rather kill myself and not take or make myself healthy with food than I'd rather give my money to a farm than to a pharmaceutical company.
And therein lies
the right farms.
The right farms, exactly. Exactly.
Anyway, back to the butcher. So you join.
Yep.
You're as a consultant, and eventually, why did you become a partner? Like, what happened?
Because the shop needed to evolve, and what I mean by that is just the revenue stream of selling a few hamburgers out over the counter and meat out of the case was never going to work financially.
Did you become a partner in 2015?
Yeah.
Okay. Were you working with them before 2015?
I started in 13 or 14. Yeah.
Okay.
As a consultant.
And what advice do you have in terms of like going into those types of partnerships? Like how to like put that on paper?
Choose wisely. Align yourself with people who are have the same shared values as you.
Yeah.
If you think something's shady, it's shady.
Yeah.
And if you don't, if everything feels good, just ask another question and make sure it's good.
Right.
Partnerships are necessary.
Is this your first partnership?
No, I mean I have partners in Easy and I have partners in Coyote. But
did you have partners back in 2005?
I did.
All
the friends, family, and fools that would invest in me. Yeah.
So were they silent partners?
Yes, they were silent partners, but they cared, and that helped.
But this is an operating partner now.
No, this is now a silent partner.
With the
and Main Street Meats, yeah.
Okay, so you kind of went over and took over, basically.
My wife and I at that point took over operations of the business.
Got it.
And needed to. That was the whole point.
And it went from more focusing on the butcher to more creating like a dining experience.
Yeah, what we quickly realized is that we needed the revenue of a dining room and a bar to help offset the high cost of the butchering.
Got it.
Now, what makes, like I said before, the butchery business is hard and it makes no financial sense by itself. The only way it makes sense is if you attach it to something else. So the butcher shop feeding a kitchen, feeding a guest makes a lot of sense. Where it doesn't work is if you're just taking, 25 to 30 points on, a tenderloin or a steak, you're never going to be able to catch up at that low volume threshold that we were at.
Got it. In the future, you mentioned how, you're talking about your costs. I think you said 70% prime cost, 40% of that's food, 30% of that's labor, and then you have an 8% profit with that concept.
Yep.
Is there a way to vertically integrate your butcher shop where you treat that as a separate entity that you sell meat to? Like, why is that too complicated? Like,
it's such a small space. It's only 2,600 square feet, which is one of the benefits of Main Street Meats.
Got it.
It doesn't have a huge, overhead when it comes to occupancy cost. The butcher shop and the kitchen and the counter are all very close to each other, like geographically. Our vac sealer is in the butcher shop, so on and so forth. And, in the middle of the shift, if the guys go and get 10 more pounds of ground beef to patty out hamburgers, we would have to note that and sell from the butcher shop to the restaurant every single time. And we just found that to be too much paperwork.
Okay.
We did it for a second and it just turned into, writing things down and invoicing one invoice entity from the other entity to the detriment of actually getting work done.
Got it.
So, butchers are better at butchering than they are at record keeping.
Yeah.
although they're very good at the USDA record keeping because that is important.
Yeah.
But I'd rather have them making salami, stuffing, sausage, making head cheese, pate, forced meats, whatever, than filling out paperwork.
Got it.
Yeah.
So you guys have your counter where you're selling all the things that you're creating, like the retail. Then you have the restaurant where you're, you're processing the food at the butcher, but then you're also giving it an outlet through the restaurant.
Sure.
And then you have alcohol sales.
Yes.
Is there any catering associated with this?
There's a little bit of catering. We do a lot of to-go pickup, that kind of stuff, drop-off catering, and then we do holiday meals.
Okay.
Thanksgiving is a huge time for us. We'll, in that tiny shop, we'll sell maybe 250 birds, either raw, brined and ready to roast, or fully brined and smoked.
Cool.
Along with sides from the kitchen.
Got it. I guess what is in terms of the model and how you're using that space to be profitable? What is if somebody wants to take this approach? What have you learned in the past 10 years?
I've learned that the butchery is a hard part of it, but it is the part that makes it so attractive because having a bandsaw and cutting your own primals and dry aging your own meat and so on and so forth is such a unique process. So we can offer at the end of the day, a dry aged ribeye from a cow that we butchered personally, aged for 48 days, cut on a bandsaw, cleaned up, and put on our own grill for a price that is so much less than if somebody had just bought the primal and done it themselves.
Yeah.
Because we're buying the whole animal.
Yeah.
And while still maintaining profitability. It's also just cool.
Yeah.
It's really fun when you're in there and the bandsaw's running and the guys are cutting dry aged pork chops on it.
I plan on going there today to grab some B-roll. I don't know, man. I want to get some shots of the charcuterie. Man.
It's awesome. Having a salami cave where we have our own salami hanging. Fermentation chamber.
I shouldn't be so attracted to that statement.
It's awesome. It smells really it smells really good in there.
Yeah, man. I can't wait to check it out.
Having a smoker that that we make our own bacon, and in the beginning we were making maybe 4 or 5 bellies at a time, and now we're making 20 bellies at a time.
Yeah,
and it's just the max quantity that we can put in the smoker because that's what we need.
Anything else in terms of that concept that we should unpackage?
I think the definition of a steakhouse is an interesting thing. I would consider Main Street Meats one of the best steakhouses I've ever been around.
What's the definition of a steakhouse?
It's a place that sells steaks. But when you say steakhouse, you're thinking leather chairs and
white
tablecloths and fine china
you think
and stuff like that.
Operational costs.
High operational costs, and and the other thing when I think about a steakhouse is I think about what I call candy beef. Which, going back to that thing we talked about earlier about feedlot beef, where they're finished on grain. If you've got a cow that's finished on 100 days of nothing but corn, every bit of flavor in it's going to be corn. It's going to be sugar. And to us, after having been around this great high quality like Nyman Ranch beef and then Bear Creek beef for so long, where they do have grain and grass or haylage as part of their diet, especially when they're finishing, we get this great flavor along with fat. And when I do taste candy beef now, it's almost off-putting because, USDA prime beef, it just tastes like sweet, sugary beef.
Well, yeah, we've been conditioned.
We've been conditioned to like that. And sugar is a brain sugar, man. Sugar is the most addictive substance on the planet.
Yeah, tell me about it. Pre-diabetic over here.
Right.
Don't remind me, please.
But when we're literally injecting sugar into the beef, and that's what people think beef should taste like, it's kind of sad in some ways. And I know there's a lot of great producers that do this, and I don't want to get in trouble, but well,
it's what the consumer. It all comes back to the consumer,
right? I
mean, at the end of the day, the consumer drives everything.
Yes,
and really, at the end of the day, I think if things are going to change, it has to come from restaurant owners, not just providing a service to consumers, but really influencing the consumer.
Well,
and that's controversial.
Well, let me tell you a little story that I think is kind of interesting here, if you don't mind.
Please.
That's
what you're here to do.
Exactly. So during the pandemic, it was chaos, right? We shut down. I think it was March 16, 17, something like that, of 2020. Totally shuttered easy because there was no really chance at a to-go program. And on that day, on the 16th, our USDA inspector came to the shop at MSM and said, we just want you to know that you guys are considered essential infrastructure as far as we're concerned in the federal government. We would like for you to remain open. And our butchery shop manager and butcher at the time, we all kind of looked at each other and were like, okay, well now at least we have something to do, right? Because we hadn't really figured out what our plan was yet. So we immediately flipped to just running the butcher shop and then running just burgers to go out of the kitchen. It took us one day. We're closed for one day. And that moment was really kind of, monumental for Main Street Meats as a butcher shop. Because if you remember, maybe 4 or 5 weeks later, all the big butchering facilities, slaughterhouses around the country, it's shut down because of COVID.
Right.
And, about, 2 weeks into this, we called Leanne at Bear Creek and said, hey, we want to keep buying beef. Is that cool? She said, yeah, but you have to come get it. So we have a refrigerated box truck. We went to go get it. She said, and that's great because all my restaurants are now closed and I need to sell beef. Like,
yeah, so
I need to harvest these animals and I need somewhere for them to go. And we're like, great. So we basically overnight quadrupled our production in the butcher shop. And there was a moment where we were the only case in town that had steaks and pork cut and ready to sell.
Oh, wow.
And what used to be exorbitantly high prices in people's minds became acceptable because they had to get it there.
Supply and demand.
And then 2 days later, they come back in and they would literally say, I worked the counter for like 2 months straight because that was my mandate at that time. People would come back and look at me and say, like, that was the best fucking steak I've ever had. What did you do to it? It was like, nothing. You just paid for a really good steak.
Yeah.
And I said, what do I do to make it better? And I was like, how do I cook it? It was just salt. It doesn't need any help. Like, put a little salt on it, grill it, don't overcook it. It'll be great. And what happened in that moment was that people discovered us for what the quality was by accident, because we were the only place that they could get meat, and then they took it home and cooked it, and it was awesome. They came back, and if you look at the sales from the case, they shot straight up, and then they over time leveled out, but they leveled out 40-50% higher than where they were. It was a huge amount of increase.
That's awesome.
Because people were exposed to it and realized. I had people come back in and say, I don't want to buy beef anywhere else. And I said, great, we'll always be here.
There are people. I'm telling. If I am just a normal white dude from New Hampshire, like middle of the road. Like, I will go to a farm and buy my chicken from the farmer and my beef from the farmer, and it's not cheap.
No.
And if I'm doing this, I feel like most people are probably headed in this direction. Not only does the food taste better, not only do you know where it comes from, you're helping, you're keeping that money in your community. You feel better buying it.
Oh yeah.
It's better for your health and it's better for your community. It's your community health.
And the economics of it are hard. We're paying 3 people to stand in the back and butcher 1 to 2 cows a week versus 10 people to butcher 200 a day.
But then you take a step back and you're like, how many streaming services do I have? How often do I get a new pair of shoes? How often do I get shopping for shit I just don't need? How often do I buy something on Amazon that is fucking stupid?
Yeah.
Like a blow up toy or something like
or
that.
Or you buy something that doesn't work, you don't even return it because it's not worth the hassle,
something funny. We just spend money in the stupidest ways in consumerism. It's like the one thing you should spend a lot of money on is your food. Well, one thing that should be expensive.
And thankfully, we have people who choose to spend their one thing with us at Main Street and at Easy and at Coyote. But, if you want to really treat yourself and come in and get a dry-aged steak, like, it doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah.
And I've been fortunate enough to eat all of it, man. Like, I've eaten all the great stuff. I've eaten, the dairy cattle from Spain that are 10 years old that are amazing. I've eaten the A5 Wagyu, and I will take our dry-aged beef from Bear Creek Farms, 48 days over all of them, every day of the week, I'm
killing myself. I was out yesterday, and I was hankering, beef. Like, I need a steak,
sure.
And I went to Publix, and I got, a discounted New York strip. And now you're talking about this, and I have leftover steak in my refrigerator. I'm like, son of a bitch! I knew I shouldn't have gone. I should have waited a day.
All steak is good steak. I'm just saying. However,
Anyway, so there's still one concept we haven't discussed.
Sure.
Your latest concept, 2023. Actually, before we talk about that, we have to get into reopening Easy Bistro.
Sure.
That was 2020, 5 years after getting involved in the butcher shop. What was going on? So what happened in 2020? Obviously, we know what happened in 2020. But
we signed the lease to move in March 1st of 2020.
Oh, wow.
And, we shut down, I think, on the 16th, and, remember when it was there was one case reported in California, and then eventually it was 2 weeks to stop the spread. Remember that one? That was fun.
Yeah.
And, maybe at the end of March, I kind of looked at my wife and I was like, we're fucked. I don't know what's going to happen to us.
Yeah.
And what ended up happening was maybe the greatest sequence of unfortunate events ever.
What were they?
Well, PPP happened, and that again gave us a purpose. So we were able to rehire some of our management and hourly staff to clean out the old place and begin storing all of our stuff to move to the new place. And then PPP2 happened again, and then EIDL happened. And, because in that moment, nobody was going to invest in moving a restaurant, and we, bank loans weren't going to happen to move a restaurant. So we did take full advantage of those moments of stimulus and support to actually do something with it, and we're able to move the restaurant. And like I said, the most unfortunate sequence of events that you could possibly imagine.
Right. And we don't have to dive into all that because we all know how that played out.
Yeah.
When were you open full
We opened in September of 2020. And 2020, yeah.
Okay. Half occupancy?
Half occupancy, masks. And, we're in the South, and, there was a much more open view in this part of the world. And I think that ultimately played out in our favor, because we needed to do revenue.
Yeah.
And I know there were plenty of cities where restaurants were just effectively shut down for 2 years, and it really just strangled, everybody. Right or wrong, it's what happened. And while it was nerve-wracking to put people in rooms together, we needed to run a business, and we needed to support ourselves, and our people needed to support themselves, and it worked.
Yeah.
And I'm really, really happy for it.
So you went from 230 seats to 135 seats.
Yep.
You talked to us about, like you said, there was a bunch of things you just did wrong with the first concept, the first physical location for the concept.
Sure.
What were all the things you were going to do right with this space?
Well, restaurants are living, breathing creatures, and like I've said before, and sometimes they got to grow up. You know. So I have a very vivid memory of sitting at this bar when it was a construction zone. And I had drafts of menus that I had written, and I had the old menu from the old place, and was trying to figure out what to integrate from the old place into the new place and how to evolve the concept while having a different kitchen layout, totally different environment. And I finally just said, what if I take all this old shit and just put it over here and don't think about it, and wrote a menu based on what I want to do now, 15 years later. And that was a truly liberating moment, because I got rid of all the old shit. It was great. There are dishes that people still kind of ask for less and less frequently now. But I found in one of my bigger lessons that holding on to the things that I thought people needed and wanted was probably one of my greatest mistakes. Because it limited our ability to continue to grow towards the guest and with the guest, because they always wanted the same freaking thing. So, we had a shrimp and grits dish. Every restaurant in 2010 had a shrimp and grits dish in the South, right? It was great. I worked on it for a long time. I was very proud of it. And I've told people this, and it's true. Like, I don't have a recipe for that anymore. I let it go. It's not even in my head anymore. I could make something like it, but I'm not even going to try, because it lives in my memory the way I want it to, but it allowed us to move forward as a restaurant in a way that we needed to let go of all that old shit. And in doing that, it was one of the most unique opportunities in the restaurant business to take a 15-year-old restaurant that has, weight and heft, but evolve it at such a rapid pace.
So it sounds like you started the way, it's like a pendulum. You started
Sure.
far off in this direction of doing what you wanted to do. The market wasn't ready for you yet,
Sure.
right? You were kind of ahead of the market.
Yeah.
In a marketplace that wasn't quite,
Oh, yeah.
West Coast.
Sure.
And then the pendulum swings, you evolve to give the market what they want to,
While still maintaining
a little
principles.
bit of it.
Yeah.
Yep. And then 2020 happens. New York, Miami, California all move to the country.
Yep.
Pendulum starts to swing back. Now the market can support your creative freedom.
The market had grown up enough in those 15 years to allow us to grow into what we needed to be finally.
What you always wanted.
What we always wanted to be. And it only took 15 years and blood, sweat, and tears and a whole lot of money.
Yeah.
But it was so gratifying to get there. And it was terrifying, because it was, I figured if there was ever an opportunity to throw all the old stuff away, this was it. And if I didn't take advantage of it, I would regret it for the rest of my life. And I'm so glad to have taken that leap, and then had some really wonderful people come in and do it with me, culinarily and, bar wise and hospitality wise, front of house wise. Like, it worked, but man, it was a gamble.
Yeah. So it worked. What are you doing better here than you were in the last location? I mean, your kitchen now meets the demand in the dining room. There's a better balance there.
Yep.
What else?
Efficiency.
How are you more efficient today?
that general less space, more sales.
Got it.
So if you look at revenue per square foot as a basic
Rent
number,
down, sales up.
Sales up, and revenue per square foot way up.
Yeah.
And then like I said, the ability to cordon off certain parts of the restaurant. So if we only have a low book, we're not going to turn on our private dining room as overflow seating. We don't have to staff it. We don't have to staff it at the back. We can have a really busy night in our main dining room and our raw bar, which is like 75 seats, and that's it.
And how many seats are in this private room we're in right now?
We can seat 42 at tables as overflow seating for the dining room, or we can seat 36 in one big table like this.
And you can record a podcast. At it
for sure,
which is super convenient.
Yeah, and it's totally private. This was an important piece of this business.
Yeah. Well, one fun fact is that this dining room is the same size as your last, or this private dining room is the same size as the private dining room in your last location. Private dining is where the money is in this type of concept, right? So what percentage of your sales?
It is really, really important.
Yeah. Do not do fine dining unless you have a private dining room.
No, and it needs to be fully private.
Yeah.
Like that, you got to be able to put the screen down, and the pharmaceutical companies need to show blood and guts up there to doctors who are eating nice meal and drinking nice wine.
Yeah.
And I'm just
I
being
didn't
honest.
notice that screen. I was like, where's the screen? It's tucked up nice up there. Huh?
It's great. Yeah.
There's a projector.
So I'd say this is 15-20% of our total sales.
Wow.
And I look at this as kind of different buckets. When the bar and the dining room and the private dining room are all working at the same time, we're going to have a great night. If you just have two of those working, it's okay. If you just have one of those working, it's not great, but it's at least survivable.
So which is the one that's hardest to get working?
I would say the dining room is the one that's hardest to get working consistently, but once you got it, you got it.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
Yeah.
And that's just, reputation, consistently making people happy, and having the demand to fill those seats on a consistent basis.
So in the past 5 years since opening this place to where you are today, like what has been the growth? What has been the struggle for you?
It's always people and finding talented people or people who want to commit to learning how to do this full service restaurant thing completely. So, there's plenty of, 22-year-old cooks who've been a sous chef at some restaurant that have no idea what they're doing that come in and apply here. And, we basically tell them you can work garde manger and learn, but you're not going to be a sous chef here. Or at least not for a while. And some people get their feelings hurt by that and think that because they've been a sous chef, they should be a sous chef. And some people are drawn to the challenge of it and the amount of, information and technique and talent that they're gonna acquire while being here. It's just kind of two separate camps. Same thing with servers. We run a tip pooled house, and it is a point system, and it works really, really well. It rewards tenure, it rewards knowledge, it rewards success. If you have a W set, or anything like that, you can gain points. There's a maximum amount and a minimum amount.
A W set?
So if you've passed a wine professional exam,
okay,
and are certified sommelier or something like that.
Start from the top. Like, so what is you have a tip out protocol?
Yeah,
what does that look like?
We're a tip pooled house.
Tip pooled house.
Yeah.
And is this like a unique to Tennessee situation where you can do this in terms of the laws and stuff?
I think it's we've made it work the best we can,
okay,
and we do include the back of house in our tip out system, and,
okay,
and by that we forgo paying all of our front of house employees tipped minimum wage, which is $2.13. We have to pay everybody federal minimum wage, which is $7.50.
Okay,
so everybody in this place makes at least federal minimum wage.
Got it.
And we treat the kitchen as basically a server every night, and they have a certain amount of points, and they get tipped out at the end of the day based on however many people are in the kitchen. It's an even split with their amount of points that the kitchen has. And then the servers and the bartenders and the host and the SAs each have their points. And so you basically take the total amount of tips divided by the total number of points on the floor, and each point is worth a certain amount of money.
So what are you calling a point? What do you mean by point?
It's a mathematical system that we came up with.
So you have a baseline point for the position.
Yeah.
So the baseline point for front of house is all the same?
No, it differs here based on tenure and tests and experience.
Okay. So what is the baseline for all the different positions?
Everybody starts at 8, and you can immediately test into 10. And
okay,
our maximum points are 20.
Okay. So everyone starts at 8 points, front of house and back of house.
Well, the back of house is treated as one entity. So the back of house has 15 points in any shift. So like what the average server would make in a shift is given to the back house.
Okay. So So the back of house splits 15 points.
Yep.
How many people are generally in the back of house?
Anywhere from 5 to 9, depending on the day.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then from there, you have basically a way to level up and to earn more points, to earn more money. So it's incentivizing people to skill up,
stay here.
Yeah.
Take tests.
Yep.
Prove their. You know, it is a merit-based system. You test into certain points once you've been here for a long enough time, and then if you go outside and work on additional avenues of improvement like WSET, CMA, that kind of stuff, you can earn points that way.
What are those things? WSET and
they're tests that you can take in as wine professionals.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. So how many of these tests? You're making me think of Nick Cirillo from Nick's Pizza, and he hosted a workshop, an episode where we talked about building tangible lanes or tangible paths of growth within your organization. So if you get hired, here are 5 paths you can take. And
Sure.
here are the steps along the way to get to the top of each one of those paths.
Sure.
Almost like a university. Like,
Yep.
you're a freshman, here's how you become a sophomore, here's how you become a junior, here's how you become a senior.
Yes.
Like, here's the curriculum that you can take to get to all these different places.
Yes.
Like, have you built out curriculum like that? Like, are there clear paths of growth here?
Yes, it's kitchen is different because that is more the brigade system of old, where you start somewhere and you learn a station, you move to the next station, you move to the next station, and as you go, you might make a salary position as chef de partie, sous chef, executive sous chef, so on and so forth, right? And then there's raises along the way as you learn stations. Every time you learn a new station and master it, we give you 50 cents or $1 raise depending on which station
So you're getting a monetary raise plus points.
Plus points.
Got it.
And then in the front of house, it is about time, but everybody is explained when they start on with us where they start and where they can finish. So within a year's time, you can achieve I think 90% of the maximum points if you put effort into it.
Okay.
But you got to put effort into it.
What does that look like? What does that path look like?
It means learning the job, taking your tests on time, passing the tests, and then if you're going to achieve maximum points, you got to do something outside of here to better yourself in here.
Like what? Give me an example. Like the SOM?
The SOM thing.
Yeah.
WSET. Yeah.
Anything else?
Cicerone. If you want to take a Cicerone test, you can do that.
Cool.
Those are the big examples there.
Got it. Where did you go to get this inspiration?
I worked with one of our old bar managers had worked a system similar to this in Boston, and he really helped conceptualize it for us.
Yeah. Do you know where he was working in Boston?
I can't remember. I could find out.
I'm just over the border in New Hampshire.
I know,
I'm
man.
interested to go deeper into that.
But what it really has accomplished is, one, nobody working in the front of the house feels like an independent contractor because they're getting paid a minimum wage, and it's not a huge difference, but it's at the end of the day for a restaurant to pay more than tip minimum wage makes a big difference.
Yeah.
And it makes us feel a little bit more indebted to them because we're paying that.
Right.
Servers are not throwaway labor anymore, right? 3 servers, if you just carried them for another extra 3 hours and wasted their time, it didn't make a big difference to the restaurant because you're only paying them $2.13 an hour.
Right.
So I think they appreciate the fact that they're treated like employees instead of just independent contractors.
Yep.
It also evens out the highs and lows of a server's life, because if you have a $500 tab and somebody stiffs you on it, it's not the end of the day.
Right.
It's not your one table that you were going to make money on that night.
Right.
It doesn't ruin your life because you're
less peaks and valleys.
Yeah, less peaks and valleys. And really what it does is it raises everybody up to a certain level. And what we've experienced in the 5 years of doing this, 7 years of doing this now, is we've had more servers, front of house professionals and back house professionals that work for us, buy houses, buy cars, they can prove their income. They're not worried about making their rent at the end of the month because they've had a consistent income stream. We're not fighting over private dining room parties because the private dining room server would make $700 one night, and the guy who got stuck on the patio on a cold night would make $12. I mean, it really evens out the playing field, and also creates a camaraderie between the front and the back, because the back is now involved in the guest's experience monetarily.
Right. Oh, you have special requests?
Sure.
Yeah.
Like, what can we do to make them happy?
Yeah.
What can, and vice versa.
Opportunity to shine. Let's do it.
Yeah. And it just, it helps to, right a little bit of the inequity and the wage disparity between the front house and back house.
I was waiting for that to come into it too.
Yeah. It really helps. So, I mean, a cook at the end of the day to find $80 to $150 in their envelope at the end of a week makes a huge difference. You know?
Yeah. I mean, that's a car payment.
Oh yeah.
It could be.
It's several
It's not
dollars.
a nice car, but
no, but it's several dollars per hour that we're able to provide, and I think everybody who works in this system really enjoys
that
it.
is a car payment. That's $400 a week.
$400 a month. $400 a month. Yeah, for sure. It's a car payment. Yeah.
That's 50% of your rent.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, a lot of the pushback with this I've heard is that you can't attract and keep talent.
I disagree. Because we've managed to attract and keep a lot of talent.
Right. So, like, what are the other?
So I have servers and bartenders who have been here for over 10 years. They're at their maximum point structure. They're at 20 points, and so they're invested in being here because they've achieved that income level.
How much? Sorry, go ahead.
And at the same time, they don't have to face the highs and lows. It's not about hunting that table or poaching that guest or only getting put on the big party. If I have a senior server who is incredibly knowledgeable in wine and service, who is on the patio in the example we just gave, where they're going to make $12 in tips that night, but you have a couple of relatively new or interim servers in the back on a bigger party, they're going to be right there with them, helping them.
Right.
There's no animosity. We have turned this into a team sport,
yes.
And everybody is working for everybody, and it just makes a huge difference. So we don't have to constantly just put strength with strength on the floor. We can manage the floor better and help raise everybody's experience up in the dining room because they're seeing multiple people. They're being touched by multiple servers. Maybe the server that they really like wasn't able to take their table when they walked in the door, but 10 minutes later they can walk over and take their drink order because they know what they want, and nobody gets their feelings hurt.
Right. So when you talk to other restaurateurs about your approach, what resistance do they meet you with? Why do they say, I can't do that?
There are some old hat servers that just don't like it because they have to work into it, and they think that they should be able to just go to the top of the heap first. And in a team, that just doesn't work. Just because you scored a bunch of goals last season doesn't mean you get to start at the new team. You got to earn your way on the team.
So the disadvantage is you maybe are holding yourself from getting some of those like top tier servers because they don't want to go through the process to make the money they can make on their own.
Only top tier servers who have been in the business for a while.
Yeah.
Because they have paid their dues elsewhere.
Right.
The problem for them with this system is you have to pay your dues here as well,
which could take as long as a year and a half.
Which is not that long,
right?
But if you're not planning on working here for more than a year, I don't want you anyway.
So now you're filtering out the people who are transactional.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Transitional and transactional.
Exactly.
Anything else we haven't discussed in terms of Easy Bistro, Main Street Butcher Shop, that are worth bringing to the conversation, or Main Street Meat? Sorry.
No, these two restaurants are, they have defined my career, and, I could not be more grateful for everyone who has ever passed through the doors that worked in them or as a guest, because, really I wouldn't be able to be here today without the support of all those people. And, everybody who works in the restaurants, has an idea of how important it is that the people came before them, but we all stand on the backs of everybody who's worked in these places before us. And it is so amazing to be in a restaurant that's about to be 20 years old, knowing that there are people who work here now that were not even alive when this place opened.
That's crazy. That's wild.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about Coyote.
No.
Is it Little Coyote?
Little Coyote, yeah.
Little Coyote.
Yeah.
2023. We also haven't talked about one other huge thing that's happened for you in your life is you've kind of transitioned out of the kitchen.
Sure, yeah.
So when did that happen?
Go back to that COVID story. And I realized about on the second day of COVID that as I was trying to get my knives out, for some reason, just out of habit, right, put on an apron, I realized that if I continued to try and cook and manage restaurants through that kind of a crisis, I was going to lose everything. Because me standing there peeling a carrot or cutting a steak or dicing an onion was just the antithesis of what I needed to be doing as an owner of a restaurant.
Right.
So I packed up my knives and put them away, and I still have them, but they're not in any of the restaurants because it really over time, and especially through that the easy moving and the transition with MSM and to go only, and being so busy in the butcher counter and trying to just keep these things moving in the right direction, it changed my whole outlook about what my job was at that time. And it was forced evolution, but I welcomed it once I got to the other side of it. And I realized that I was doing a better job of managing my businesses than I was when I was trying to cook and manage the businesses. And it just it was just an awakening at that point. Like I
Yeah.
couldn't go back.
When did this evolution happen for you? Like 2022, 2023?
This is 2020.
2020.
Yeah,
It's all happened in
in the pandemic. Like
Got it.
I realized, that there was no way I could continue and be the chef and the owner and do it all at the same time.
So what was that challenge like for you?
It's emotional. It's to have come up as a chef, and everybody in these restaurants still refers to me as chef, and I take that as a point of pride, and I think it's a very endearing term to refer to somebody as that. Thank you.
Yeah.
I will always be that. I hope that in my current role, I am fulfilling my obligations and my goals of restaurateur as well, while shepherding these concepts into the promised land and into that perfection, that pursuit of perfection that we're always talking about, while managing people and creating value for our guests in a way that I am learning more and more every day is also important, other than just creating great food and putting it on a plate. So it's working with other people to do that. So it never leaves me. I'm still a chef at heart, and I know what the people in the back are doing. I know what the people in the front are doing, but my ability to liaise between the back and the front and communicate with them, help chefs, cooks through problems with ideas, sourcing, schedules, whatever. I have moved into that phase of my career. Doesn't mean I don't think about food. It's just that I'm not doing it on a daily basis.
Right. I think what it comes down to is, if there's one thing I've learned talking to successful restaurateurs, like, your role as a restaurateur is to create opportunity for other people.
For sure.
And if you're taking up a huge spot at the top as the executive chef, like, that's a spot that's being taken that somebody could move into. Like, you need to take yourself out of that position to create upward mobility for somebody else.
Oh, for sure. I mean, the benefit of opening Main Street Meats after 10 years was that it took me away and created a vacuum so that people could grow and learn and move into themselves.
Right. Because
if, I found this at that point in time, 10 years into this whole endeavor, that if I was there, they were always going to defer to me.
Right.
For every decision, little, small and big, whatever. It didn't matter. Like, so, not being physically present sometimes is the best way to run your restaurant or your business, because it forces other people to make a decision. Now, if they make a decision based on the important things of, is it good right for the guest? Is it right for the business? Is it right for the employee? If you check all three of those boxes, it's a great decision.
Right. And what did this free you up? I mean, you also now have bandwidth to open a third restaurant, right? Would you have had the bandwidth to do that otherwise?
Not a chance.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I was cooking every day in one of these restaurants, there's no way.
Right. So what did that process? So you remove yourself from the chef role. I mean, you're still a chef. But you're not on the floor working in the business every day. You're out creating new ideas and flexing that creativity, and also creating more space for growth within your organization.
Trying to create opportunity for more people to grow, advance, and be better at their jobs.
So how did Little Coyote come onto your radar in 2023?
I joke that every chef that starts in like kind of quasi fine dining has this desire to do barbecue and tacos, right? And so I just had this concept, sort of stewing, cooking in the back of my brain for 10 years, how to do fun tacos, how to do them with proper barbecue, like really well prepared meat, not just the average stuff that you get in a kind of a regular taco shop, and smash them together in a way that makes it fun. And then it evolved into the tortilla, and kind of an obsession with corn tortillas, and then it evolved into the way people are in different cultures around the world use bread or use any sort of pita, naan, whatever you want to call it,
vehicle to move food
to get food from plate into mouth, right? And then I did a couple of things, and I realized that one of the biggest problems with making tacos is that you have to put all the stuff into the form, and it's just super labor intensive at that point. And then also there is a perception that tacos should be dirt cheap, because they've always been kind of dirt cheap. But if you're smoking Niman Ranch brisket and putting it in a taco, you can't just charge $3 for the taco, because you're going to lose money on it.
Right.
So then my, obsession with Texas barbecue, because I grew up in Texas, comes back into play, and I love smoking meats, because everybody who puts fancy things on plates on the weekend has a smoker at the house, and they want to smoke something because it's the antithesis of what you do in a fine dining restaurant, right?
I finally got a piece. I'm wearing the
Franklin barbecue
T-shirt right now, and I I finally got a bite of that brisket, man.
Yeah.
I only took a little piece fell off the scale.
Yeah.
And I was like, you lost a piece, and she handed it to me. And I was like, that was all I got. I would have felt bad eating there because there was always a line. Like, I'm not gonna don't feed me if someone's out in the line waiting for hours.
I know,
like,
man.
I'll take that little bite. It was delicious.
Yeah,
But,
I mean,
I digress.
my favorite Franklin story is when Obama visited when he was president, and he cut the line, but he bought everybody's meal behind him that he cut in front of.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So you're kind of sharing the culmination of like how the brand came to be. So you're piecing all these pieces together.
And this is just cooking. It's just cooking. Like, how do we do this? How do we do this? And what ultimately came out of it was Little Coyote, and the tagline is smoked meats and fresh tortillas.
So are you making the tortillas in house?
We make tortillas in house every day. So we got
it.
a machine, a roller oven combo from Mexico City, a company called Lennon that we brought up. So it was really interesting buying a machine over WhatsApp through international wire transfer. It was like a little bit of hope and prayer, but it's great, man.
I love that.
It's totally analog. It has electrical circuits, an electrical motor, and a gas connection.
They're open today, right?
They're open today.
I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah,
too.
it's really cool.
Yeah.
We did some a bunch of trialing and kitchen work and stuff like that, and then took a great trip to Houston with my culinary director there, a guy named Jonathan Ferguson, and made nixtamalized corn in a restaurant that he was associated with when he used to work at a place called Cultivari. And we found in Houston that there's only 2 or 3 restaurants nixtamalizing corn, and 2 of those are Hugo Ortega's joints. I was like, I don't think we need to nixtamalize corn. Let's just get really great.
What are you saying, nixtamalized?
Nixtamalized corn.
What is that?
It's when you soak dry hominy and use lye and hot water and thyme to remove the outer case and shell of the corn.
Okay.
So that
what's that called again?
It's called nixtamalization.
Nixtamalization?
Yeah.
Okay.
So to make dry masa harina, which is what you want to make tortillas with, you have to nixtamalize the corn first, because if you just grind it up,
remove the husk.
If you don't remove the husk, one, it tastes kind of weird, and 2, your body or our bodies are not able to fully absorb the nutrition of the corn.
Got it.
Yeah. A really important process.
Got
It's great history. Like, goes back, into ancient civilizations of Central and South America, so on and so forth.
Oh, it's so cool.
Yeah.
So you figure all this process.
Figure all this out. We're going through it. And so we write drafts of menus and have this whole idea, and we realized, maybe 3 months before we opened, that none of the food that we were doing there had any flour. There was no wheat flour in at all. And it was like,
now you have a gluten-free option.
We were just like, fuck it, let's just not do it. And the restaurant is actually totally gluten-free, even though we don't make a big deal out of it.
Which is huge today because we fucked up the food system. Now I know everyone's sick. I'm one of those people too. Like, I love beer. I'll have a beer, but you won't want to be around me for the next 24 hours.
But we did it out of a challenge to kind of keep ourselves honest. Yeah. Because flour, don't get me wrong, I'm a massive gluten eater. I love sandwiches. I eat bread. I eat pasta. It's awesome. But it, when used inappropriately, can kind of like hide a bunch of stuff.
Right.
And to have almost like the nakedness of a menu without any wheat flour on it anywhere has been kind of liberating.
Yeah. And in terms too, if you have any celiac or gluten like allergies.
Oh yeah.
Now you don't have to worry about like cross contamination or anything. Like a completely gluten free operation.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Makes sense.
So are you making tacos? Or is it kind of like what's like so?
So the idea is we make barbecue and we make fun dishes that are kind of either inspired by Tex-Mex or Caribbean or African cuisine or whatever. And then we put them all on the table in a shared format with a big pile of tortillas.
Oh yeah,
some salsa
right now.
Salsa, pickles, and crema.
That's cool. Yeah. That's so cool.
And the mantra is literally like play with your food, right?
Yeah.
Like take the fajitas and dip them in the queso, and then put them in a tortilla, and then put some crema
that's
on
how
it,
it's
and
meant.
Then eat it. Yeah.
That's how it's meant. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not Mexican, but I'm pretty sure that that's the idea. Like it's just like this vehicle. Like you make your own. So it's this pile of food in front of you, and you kind of put together your own like little vehicle to put. Yeah.
And then if people sometimes are like, well, how do I get the food from that plate to this plate? And you say, well, pick up a tortilla, grab it, and then put it in your mouth or on your plate.
What's that? Sorry, did you finish?
That's it. Yeah.
There's this. I think you're going to see this exploding real soon. There is this African food that is like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like putty almost. You know what I'm talking about? It's like this like root vegetable like pounded out thing. It's like sticky, and like it comes in a big ball, and you just like pull a swab out of it.
Yeah,
and that's what they do is they kind of use it. They grab it, and then they use it almost as like a
vehicle.
Yeah, as a vehicle. And I went to this place when I was in Kansas City, and they were doing this, and I was like, this is a cool concept. I think it has legs for sure. But anyway,
so Coyote has been, it's been a lot of fun. It's reminded me how hard it is to open a restaurant, it reminded me how much I'd taken the culture and Easy and MSM for granted, and how hard it was to create, because we had to then go create it again.
Right.
And I think the older part of me thought that it might just kind of like transfer a little bit, but really you got to take every individual person that comes in as part of a new team and spend time with them. So we go back to that lineup and these, conversations that we have about, fundamentals of hospitality, fundamentals of food, why we do what we do, why we buy the things that we buy, why Hacienda produces our Masa Arena, and that kind of, and the heirloom beans that we get, and so on and so forth, and where we got the smoker from, and the kind of wood that we use, and the whole 9 yards.
Yeah. So this is the first time you're really opening a restaurant from scratch in 25 years.
20 years, yeah.
Because you kind of like traditionally like you kind of relocated your first concept, and then you took over a restaurant that was already open.
Yep.
So what were the unique challenges with this? Like you said, like it was fun to reconnect with how hard it is to open a restaurant.
It was fun.
20 years later.
Fun and challenging, and get a little bit of that brain damage that you always get when you do it.
Yeah.
It's in a different location, so we kind of have a little bit of a neighborhood strategy with these three places where, Easy is in a neighborhood we call the West Village, and it's, a little bit more urban. It's kind of the most downtown-y looking piece of downtown.
Got it.
Taller buildings. I'm not going to say tall buildings, but taller buildings, right? And then, surrounded by hotels, the Tivoli, which is a fine arts performing center, theater and symphony and music shows and that kind of stuff is right down the street. And then Main Street Meats, which is on Main Street, which is kind of a more up and coming neighborhood of Chattanooga. And then St. Elmo, which is where Little Coyote is, which is a little bit more. It's 5 minutes away from here, 6 minutes away from here, but it's like a little bit of an enclave next to Chattanooga. So I wouldn't say we're suburban by any means, but we do have a parking lot. And so this is the first one that's ever had like grass or parking lot attached to it that we've ever run. That's been fun and challenging, in all the different ways that it can be fun and challenging. And, being in a different neighborhood with a different interpretation of what they wanted us to be and a different clientele, and just kind of starting something new and getting to know St. Elmo and trying to be, a part of that neighborhood as much as we can be.
Yeah. So in terms of like the evolution, like a restaurant today isn't the same restaurant 20 years ago, right? No. In terms of
if it is the same, you're gone.
Right.
Yeah.
So in has that evolution been like for you in terms of like restaurant operations? Like how have you improved your operations? I see you're using Toast.
Yeah.
You weren't using that 20 years ago.
Certainly weren't using that.
Yeah.
When we started, we literally had manager logbooks that we would write in manually every day, and then the PM manager would leave notes for the AM manager in there, and we didn't even really use email, which
right.
we had email, but we didn't think to use it for like 5 years because it wasn't a part of the restaurant culture, right?
Exactly.
So we've got all these different ways of communicating, and I'd say the communication aspect of technology is what's really changed restaurants for the better in the last 20 years. So, scheduling programs, 7 shifts is the one we use for these restaurants, where everybody's got, an app that you log into, your schedule gets, posted on the app, and you can trade shifts on the app, send notes on the app, so on and so forth. And, oh my God, the communication of that is amazing compared to nothing from, as a piece of paper posted on a door if we were lucky.
That's
in the beginning,
thing. Like if you next after like the POS, if you're going to invest in some type of technology to free up the labor from the manager, and just to have that like that tool to communicate and to move information, is such a hours and hours of labor costs at your most expensive tier.
Yeah.
So your text. So how else have you improved communication?
We have. As far as communicating the tip pool aspect of what we're doing, everybody has a login to a program that we use so they can see.
What's it called?
It's called Tip Metric.
Okay.
Everybody has a login to it, and it's full transparency. Everybody can see how much money came in, where it all went, and I think that transparent aspect of it. is super important when you're running a tip pool like that. So there's no hiding anything as far as who's getting what, where it goes, anything like that.
And how did you discover this solution? Like, why did you go with this one versus other options that are out there?
Honestly, it was the only thing available 7 years ago when we started this.
Okay.
And everybody knows how to use it, and it's subscription based, and it works just great.
Got it. Okay, so communication, anything you're doing differently in terms of communication? Like, what about your operations manual? Like, where does that live today?
It lives on a drive. I mean, we all work on different Google Drives for each place, and that is a huge difference where recipes, manuals, tech sheets, wine lists, cocktail, seasonal cocktail drops, cocktail information, glossaries, wine Bibles, cocktail Bibles, bar Bibles, all live on the drive.
Got it.
And everybody has access to it on their phone.
And those are just recipes and how-to execution, basically, like step by step, like.
Yeah, they're recipes and build sheets, and then same thing for back house.
Costing.
We don't costing goes in there as well. But yeah, every cook has every recipe that they need from the kitchen at their fingertips, so they can look it up on their phone and have it right there. The recipe book of old, where it's that old tattered thing that has a piece of paper that maybe has some weird notes written on it, is gone.
Yeah. So in terms of communication, any other tools you're using to improve communication?
No. I mean, I think that's about it. Yeah. I mean, as far as communicating with guests, that's where Toast comes into play. The guest facing side of Toast is really, really good.
So what do you mean by the online ordering?
Online ordering, the ability to see menus, and just the interactivity that guests can have with the online platform that Toast is.
Are you using any other type of technology today?
We use Resi at Easy and at Main Street Meats. We take reservations at Easy. Resi's been a very reliable platform for us for about the last 10 years.
Why Resi versus other options?
One, fee structure is appropriate, and then I think when American Express bought Resi, it brought with it a bunch of cachet from diners that would eat in a place like Easy, and they started moving to that platform directly. And I don't want to throw shade at like the Open Tables of the world, but when Open Tables has Google ads for your restaurant fighting your Google AdWords, so that they can get the reservation to come through their platform and then charge you more for it because it didn't come through your platform. It feels like we're fighting against each other, man. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense,
And, I have heard that Open Table has kind of woken up a little bit and kind of smelt their own pits.
If they have, good for them. Resi just acquired Talk, and I'm thrilled for that too.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. What are your thoughts on that?
I've never used Talk outside of just being a customer of other restaurants that were on the platform. I think it's very good, and I think it will augment some functionality that Resi doesn't have. And I think it will be a very good thing for all of us.
I was a big fan of Talk. I was actually so close to landing Talk as a sponsor before Resi had to come and fucking buy him. Thanks a lot, Resi.
Yeah, right.
Really screwed me over in that situation. But I love what they do, and I love that it was built by restaurant owners.
Yes.
It was built to optimize, and I think what Nick Akanis did, being like, why are we doing it this way? Like, why are we like? The value of that table on a Friday night at 7 o'clock or 7:30 is more valuable than a Tuesday at 4:30. Why are we not charging more money? Like giving the restaurateur the option to put the reservation on a sliding scale, to me, was just genius. And you shouldn't be apologetic about that.
No.
Supply and demand.
Yeah, and it only really comes into play in a restaurant that's just fully booked.
Right. It's more experiential based, like prefixed. This is a show we're putting on. And we're selling tickets.
Yeah, and if you drop a reservation 5 minutes before you show up at a prefix restaurant, that really, really hurts.
Right.
It hurts us too. But we can generally on a busier night pick up a walk-in to put in that spot.
Right.
Whereas at a prefix, you're not going to pick up a walk-in to go in that spot.
Or there's another really cool tool out there called Line Leap. Have you ever heard of Line Leap?
I heard that one.
So it's if you have a wait list option, you can pay a premium to skip the line.
Oh, Line Leap. All right, cool.
So I think there's nothing wrong with doing that. Giving somebody, providing a service and charging, upselling. You want to skip the line, you can do it.
That's the thing I learned today. I'm going to go look at it now.
Right? It's a really cool tool. It's mostly used for music venues and clubs.
Makes sense.
Where there's long lines, people waiting to get in.
Makes perfect sense, yeah. I don't like lines. Lines suck, yeah.
I can pay a premium, skip it, sure.
Yeah. All right, cool.
All right, so you're using Toast. What haven't we discussed? We're talking about Resi. The only thing that scares me about there are now 2 reservation platforms, Open Table and Resi.
And Resi, yep.
You know, like, and I worry about like the POS companies getting too big sometimes too. Like now it's really, I mean, I think some of those like legacies are starting to make a comeback. They're trying to like evolve.
They're trying. I mean, they were obviously very late to the evolution.
Yeah.
And really, Toast is a subscription service, obviously, and you pay for hardware and so on and so forth. Whereas in the beginning, you had to find $30,000 for a POS system.
Right.
And, no, you didn't have continuing costs, but like, man, that was a lot of money up front.
Right.
And now
you can budget it out.
With the integrations that Toast, Resi, and all these other places have, like all these things we've just been talking about, integrate with themselves, because if they're not integrating with themselves, they're not growing.
Right.
And in doing that, they're creating their own little ecosystem where it's really hard to leave, and we know that. So when moving to these places, or these platforms, we did a lot of research at the time when we made the leap, knowing that leaving them would be hard down the road. If we were to go away from a POS system that we're this deep into, it would be a 6-month process at the minimum, and cost tens of thousands of dollars in labor to do it.
Well, 3 locations now. I'm curious, as you scale, like, are you looking into enterprise solutions that integrate with Toast?
No, and it's only because we treat each of these as an independent LLC. They have different ownership structures, but they're managed by common people, and we have been able to utilize all these platforms thus far, and they're all the same over all three places. If we do more, I think that's when we got to get into a different solution.
So when I say enterprise solution, what do you think of?
A bigger, more robust platform to house all of these things under one.
Like a Restaurant 365?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I know that like a Restaurant 365 and a Restaurant Systems Pro integrate with most of those tools today. I think the biggest difference between an enterprise solution is the connection with the general ledger.
Yep.
Is having, instead of using QuickBooks, like you have a general ledger that is tied to your POS, and then you also have recipe costing, inventory, and like all this other stuff. Like, so now you can do like actual versus theoretical, costing and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I do see the value in that.
Yeah.
I have not broken that far into that world yet, and maybe I should. The one thing I have that I think most people don't have is I have an amazing bookkeeper.
Yeah.
And
worth their weight in gold.
we have a Todd.
Yeah.
And if we didn't have a Todd, we'd probably be doing all that stuff. But having him, he's been with us for 12 years, I think, maybe longer than that now. He's the unseen manager of all these restaurants that everybody counts on to be there, and he's always there.
I love it.
And it makes, if we didn't have that solution would be needed.
Yeah.
But because we have that old analog solution, it works great.
We haven't talked a lot about Amanda.
We should.
So, business partner.
Yeah.
What are your lanes?
In the beginning, we were both, I was in the back, she was in the front. She would run shifts and, do whatever was necessary. Her background is in fine dining. We worked in every restaurant in Chattanooga we've ever worked in together. As we, grew in the restaurant business and got married, had a family, she certainly stepped back from the day-to-day operations and is now, part of our upper management team. She specifically works on special events, marketing, promotion, publicity, that kind of stuff. She handles all of our social media accounts and does a really good job with that.
Got it.
And
well, that's the one thing we haven't discussed. And I was
Yeah.
going to ask about marketing, but that sounds like a conversation for Amanda.
It's for her. I mean, I'd say we both high do it, but she's the one actually doing it.
Yeah.
She is the one that has the brand identities in her pocket.
Got it.
And she is the fierce, like, fire that comes down when something is not right. She is the she is the moral compass of all of these places. And it's because she's such a great hospitality professional and she just wants to take care of people that when something's not going well, she's the first to jump in and say, this is not right. We got to fix it.
So in terms of marketing, what is working for you?
Social media, for the most part,
Yeah.
although it becomes harder and harder as algorithms change and, amongst the social media platforms, and they're trying to drive us to paying more for, exposure to our followers, I guess.
So that they being the social platforms
Social
are trying
platforms,
to drive.
yeah.
What do you mean? Get into that.
I think depending on the day, what we post may or may not get seen by however many thousands of our followers. Like,
Right.
You got 10,000 followers and only, 20 of them see a post because the algorithm doesn't like you that day. It kind of sucks.
Yeah.
If you're trying to sell something, sell a dinner, make people aware of a buy the glass takeover we're doing at the restaurant, so on and so forth. Like, it's hard to kind of break through to everyone in a meaningful way because there's so much information on social media platforms getting pushed by the platform itself,
Right.
and determining what it is that it thinks you want to see versus what you may want to see. And
Yeah.
as soon as you click on some guy catching a fish or riding a horse, all you're gonna see is some guy riding a horse or catching a fish for the rest of your day, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting. So what does work on social media for you? What, like,
Stories work, video works. When we can post it and have a conversation with the guest through our video.
got it.
She's worked really hard on kind of trying to transition to video. But long gone are the days of posting a picture of a beautiful plate of food
Right.
and people being like, "I want that."
Right.
You
Yeah.
gotta grab them and get them.
I mean, it's getting to a point where, like, marketing is becoming just as inarguably not. I mean, it's weird. Like, I don't think anything will be as important as the actual experience you're delivering, because somebody coming to your restaurant one time isn't enough to keep you in
No.
business. They have to come back. Right?
No, we need frequency. Like,
Yeah.
frequency is the name of this game.
And if it's a shitty
Yeah.
experience, they're not going to come back. You
Yeah.
can convince them that one time that it's going to be the best time of their life. But if you don't hold up to that experience that you're projecting online,
Oh yeah.
then they won't come back.
Well, these places are all built on that idea of frequency, like,
Right.
and us trying to define frequency, and part of that is advertising, social media, so on and so forth. So if our ardent followers, when we do say something that's meaningful on social media, we find an uptick almost immediately because it just boosts our brand and their choices for the day.
Right.
We're promoting our 20th anniversary, pretty heavily on social media right now, and when we start making announcements about the events we're going to have, inevitably that night or the night after, people are here because they've seen something about us, and then we're right there, at their recall when they decide where to go eat dinner that night.
Got it.
But marketing is a hard thing. We work with a great publicist, and I'm sorry,
You're
so,
good.
yeah,
You're good.
we work with a great publicist in Atlanta, and been with her for a long time, and being in magazines, having articles written online, like, all that stuff provides us with content. Podcasts, like it all plays back to itself.
Yeah.
And then honestly, most of the money we spend on quote unquote like advertising and marketing goes to Google.
Yep.
If we're not
How much are
promoting,
you putting aside? What's your budget?
we have a monthly spend that's different for all restaurants depending on what there is, but we're spending maybe $12,000 to $15,000 per restaurant per year on just Google AdWords.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And have you seen the needle move?
Yes.
Okay.
That is the only thing in the past 5 years that we've put money behind that specifically drives butts to seats.
Wow. And that's just buying ads on, or driving ad, like,
We have a company that we work with here, a marketing company.
What's it called?
It's called Riverworks Marketing, that helped us design our websites and gear them towards the Google environment, and then we put money behind Google AdWords depending on what we're trying to promote at those each month, to drive people to make actions that, like, reservations or come to the restaurant or call the restaurant or something like that.
got it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on that, generally speaking? Like the number one thing you can do to drive business to your business is to spend it with Google or Meta?
Kind of sucks.
I worry about it sometimes. I
feel like we're controlled by the corporate overlords.
Well, I mean, and this is, I kind of echo, and I'm a very much counter.
Google don't smite me down.
Well,
Yeah.
like counterculture, a lot of people who are in the space who are teaching, like, I think we all focus on what you need to do that works today, but I don't think we're looking at we're all very short-sighted.
Sure.
Like, we're just so fear-based. What do I need to do today to survive? We're not collectively saying, like, hey, what are we doing, guys? Like, one or two companies is collectively responsible for all the world of marketing. Like, that in no scenario is a good thing for us.
No, I mean, at least when we started, you could put up a billboard and see some reaction to it. People say, I saw that sign and I decided to come in.
Right.
And I feel like everybody's so even immune to that now.
Right.
It's hard to make a mark in this digital world that matters when it comes to marketing. The best thing you can do is try and connect directly with people on some level.
Well, I think what's happening is you're seeing the consumers becoming more loyal to marketplaces than they are to the actual the people in the market.
For sure.
Yeah. Whether that marketplace be Google reviews or Yelp reviews or it is DoorDash or Uber Eats, these are all marketplaces.
Yes.
And those marketplaces are designed to influence and control human behavior, or I would say
and make money for their benefactors.
Guess what? Beard Foundation,
yep.
Michelin Star.
Oh yeah.
These are also marketplaces.
Oh yeah.
And consumers are more loyal to who is being assigned that award every year. So
true. I mean, the Beard Foundation, the Michelin Guide, they're very important influencers in this world.
Right.
They were influencers before there was a term, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I just think we could be mindful of what are we when you learn about it, when you learn the game, you got to ask yourself, do I want to promote this game or do I want to create awareness about the game?
Well, in the restaurant business, we got to get butts and seats because that's what makes it work. And to go on a crusade against one or the other is probably something we don't have time for.
Right.
And
at the end of the day, you got to survive.
At the end of the day, you got to survive.
Play the game.
And if there was another platform or another avenue that we genuinely felt would work, we'd go to it.
Right. I feel like I could be better about going into how to play the game, especially around marketing.
It's tough because we are so controlled by those two entities.
Right.
And so Garden Gun does a beautiful article piece on us in a print magazine that is distributed 400,000 copies or whatever. That's great for a moment, but what you need is the online version of it to live forever, so that when people search you, they find that. But they're not going to find that if you don't promote it, because it's all about money. Right,
man. Yeah. Anything we did not discuss today? Anything that you were hoping would come out of today's conversation that did not come out?
I touched a little bit on the teams at all the places, and how proud I am of them for being who they are every day, all day long. And I think it goes without saying, but maybe it doesn't go without saying. None of these places work without the team.
Right.
So rewarding them, acknowledging them is ultimately important, and because none of this works without it. I think guests love a full service environment when it feels full service.
Yeah.
And therein lies the team, right?
Yeah.
So I'm very proud of everyone who's ever done that for us, and could not do it without all the people that are doing it right now for us.
I love it.
Yeah.
What's one thing about your business, a value, a process, a system that's truly uncommon and makes you unstoppable?
We talk about how the three most beautiful words in the English language are "I fucked up," and I think it's a value because it's acknowledgement of a mistake.
It's humility.
But it immediately disarms whomever you say it to.
Extreme ownership.
Yeah, I fucked up is the greatest thing you can say. And I say it to people. People come to the past. I fucked up. I sent this to the wrong table. What do you need right now?
Yeah.
But it immediately just cuts through all the chase of
who's right, who's wrong?
Maybe I sent this to the wrong table, but they might have taken it. Fuck that. I fucked up. Let's fix it.
Got it.
And if you can take that philosophy and that ownership of your mistake, somebody else's mistake, anybody's whatever, I think that pays dividends in the long run for everyone.
Yeah.
Because it having the humility to accept anything that's not right is one of the most important virtues I think you can have in this business.
It doesn't matter who's right, who's wrong. Let's move forward.
Right.
Let's get beyond this.
Yeah. I fucked up. What do we need to do about it right now?
I love that.
Yeah.
If you got the news, you'd be leaving this world tomorrow. All the memories of you, your work, and your restaurants would be lost with your departure, with the exception of 3 pieces of wisdom that you could leave behind for the good of humanity and your legacy. What would those 3 pieces of wisdom be?
Oh, man. It's a great question. Enjoy it.
1.
Don't fear. Just do.
2.
And love as hard as you can.
3. This has been a lot of fun, and I haven't eaten yet today, which is why I probably totally skipped over one of these questions and just realized it, so I apologize. What is, the mission statement is to inspire, empower, and transform the industry, and we do that by sharing individual stories of transformation and growth. How are you a better man today than the man you were when you got started in the industry? What is your personal transformation? To
be in the restaurant business is hard. To to be the leader of a restaurant, I think it is even more challenging because it all comes back to you. And in accepting all of the mistakes that I've made and others have made with me over the years, I have become better through experience and through acknowledgement, because as long as, I feel like I'm bending towards doing the right thing at the right moment for everybody involved, the guest, the business, and the employee, I think I'm going to be better at it. And the humility that I've gained over the years of making those mistakes and having the successes and figuring out my way makes me a better restaurant manager, a better restaurateur, a better chef.
Yeah. This has been so much fun, Eric.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Eric.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. So who do you respect and admire? Who's somebody that if you found out this person was a guest on the show, maybe it's locally, maybe it's nationally, somebody who's doing good work, somebody that you would want to hear what they would have to say, somebody you think needs to be made an example of, who is that for you?
A few people come to mind. Josh Habinger in Nashville is one of my heroes.
Josh, what's the last name?
Habinger. Yeah. He's with Strategic Hospitality now.
Oh, okay. I just had Max Goldberg on the show.
Oh, yeah. He and Josh work together.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Josh is their culinary director.
And that's Habinger?
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else?
Bill Briand.
Bill Briand. All right. Beautiful.
Bill Briand is a great buddy.
Keep going. The more names you call it, the easier my work gets.
He is opening a restaurant called Little Bird in Fairhope, Alabama, in the next couple weeks.
Little Bird?
Yeah.
In Fairhope, Alabama?
Mm-hmm. David Bancroft in Auburn, Alabama, is a wonderful human being.
I think I had David on the show.
I'm sure you did.
Yeah, he was pretty cool.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Thank you. And how can we connect? If we enjoyed today's conversation, maybe we want to come work for you. Maybe we have follow-up questions about something you shared today, like your tip solution. I think that was really cool. Like, how can we follow up?
Find me at all the restaurants are on the internet. EasyBistro.com is the best, and you can just email me directly at ian@easybistro.com.
All right, beautiful. This is where I say thank you so much for taking the time to sit 2.5 hours almost to sit with me and to share your story, to share your knowledge, your values, your perspective, what you're doing. I think the only way we're going to change this industry is if we start sharing the information, and I can't do it without people like you, man. There is no questioning. You are unstoppable.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it.
Cheers.